1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waifus our boy has to deal with. His master says he needs 100% focus to unlock his true potential. Luckily, our guy has a cheat code system to speedrun it. The catch: every time he tries to grind, his clingy waifu completely ruins the flow. Even his training partners are completely done with this shit. All he wants is to hit Heaven Road and unlock a god tier. Instead, his system drops a mandatory side quest. Now these wildcat waifus refuses to let him leave before a cardio session. Our boy makes them leave's legs shaking. Just when he finally gets peace and quiet to break through to god rank, guess who shows up? Another waifu wanting yet another cardio session. Even the master can't believe this shit. That's when the story hits us with a flashback. Under a blood-red moon, the Saint Yuan demon sect remains quiet while one servant disciple fights to stay alive. Inside a sealed room, Zhao Mu is restrained as he begs his senior sister Zhu Jiaoran to let him go. Zhu Jiaoran ignores his plea and continues using his pure yang body to advance her cultivation. She teasingly calls him her husband and treats the night like their own private wedding celebration. When Zhao Mu still resists, she offers to change outfits as though presentation is the only problem here. None of this is a strange dream because Zhao Mu really is a transmigrator trapped in another person's body. He studies the fox demon before him and silently confirms that she is definitely not the princess he was supposed to marry. 1 year earlier, Zhao Mu had awakened as a noble heir with a marriage contract to a princess of the ruling dynasty. Just before reaching adulthood, demons from the Saint Yuan sect kidnapped him and dragged him into their mountain stronghold. Becoming a prisoner was only the beginning because the sect quickly discovered why his body was so valuable. His pure yang constitution was the perfect supplement for Zhu Jiaoran's yin mystic art and 9-charm heavenly fox cultivation. For an entire year, she repeatedly drained that power while medicines kept Zhao Mu alive for the next session. Tonight is worse than usual as Zhu Jiaoran pulls away the little energy he has managed to recover. Zhao Mu coughs blood and feels his exhausted body finally reaching the brink of death. Even that warning does not stop Zhu Jiaoran because she is closer than ever to breaking through. His strength disappears so quickly that Zhao Mu can no longer pretend he will survive another round. Zhu Jiaoran celebrates the progress and tells him her yin mystic art is almost ready to advance. She produces another recovery pill, not from kindness but because a dead cultivation resource would be useless. The pill is forced into Zhao Mu's mouth so his body can endure a little longer. He realizes Zhu Jiaoran would gladly sacrifice him if his remaining pure yang power completes her breakthrough. Zhao Mu cannot accept dying here after spending his entire second life trapped inside the sect. With his last strength, he clenches his fist and refuses to let this miserable room become his grave. That desperate will to survive finally awakens the return system that should have appeared when he first transmigrated. A glowing system sphere forms in his hand, and Zhao Mu can only think about the full year it arrived too late. After binding successfully, the system compensates for the delay by guaranteeing a 10,000-fold reward on his first return. Zhu Jiaoran remains completely unaware that Zhao Mu has finally gained a way to turn the situation around. To trigger the first return, Zhao Mu casts aside his pride and suddenly offers to help her finish cultivating. His sudden change catches Zhu Jiaoran off guard because the prisoner who always resisted is now cooperating. That tiny victory puts her in a wonderful mood and makes her completely lower her guard. Zhao Mu plays along long enough for the system to count her extraction as his first completed return. Behind the convincing act, Zhao Mu remains focused entirely on surviving until the promised reward arrives. Zhu Jiaoran mistakes his cooperation for affection and promises that this special treatment is reserved only for him. By sunrise, the exhausting ordeal is finally over. Zhao Mu can barely move after having the last of his pure yang power drained away. Zhu Jiaoran gets dressed and walks out as casually as if she did not nearly kill him. She praises his performance before leaving him with the horrifying promise of another future visit. Her final joke is that she will return if he survives without the solidifying yang pills she normally leaves behind. The door closes and Zhao Mu forces himself awake as the system begins processing everything taken from him. The 10,000-fold return grants him the red yang sacred body and pushes him into the 4th layer of qi refining. Warm power floods every meridian, making Zhao Mu realize a sacred body operates on a completely different level. His wounds disappear, his strength returns, and the man who looked half dead moments ago suddenly overflows with energy. Zhao Mu knows the Saint Yuan demon sect is filled with experts who would seize him the moment this secret became exposed. He hides the transformation, gets dressed, and decides to gather strength while everyone still considers him disposable. With the red yang sacred body, Zhao Mu figures he can accept cultivation requests from other senior sisters for resources. The sect certainly has no shortage of potential customers, although becoming a full-time cultivation service is hardly his dream. Before committing to that plan, he searches for a faster and considerably less exhausting way to obtain spirit stones. A familiar burst of cultivation energy nearby gives Zhao Mu another idea. The source is Wang Chan, an outer disciple quietly cultivating alone. When Zhao Mu first entered the sect, Wang Chan was one of the few people who treated him with genuine kindness. Now holding 200 spirit stones, Zhao Mu decides to repay that kindness and test the system simultaneously. Wang Chan is stunned when Zhao Mu places an entire bag of valuable stones into his hands. He checks the contents twice because a servant disciple should never possess this kind of money. Once Zhao Mu insists the gift is real, Wang Chan accepts it with the happiest face he has worn in years. The system registers the 200 spirit stones and triggers a 500-fold return. 100,000 spirit stones instantly enter Zhao Mu's possession. Proving generosity may be the easiest business model alive. Zhao Mu can barely hide his grin as the ridiculous scale of the reward finally sinks in. Naturally, his next thought is whether giving the return stones away can trigger another reward. He immediately tests the loophole by showering Wang Chan with another mountain of spirit stones. Wang Chan can only stare upward and thank the heavens for sending him the most generous junior brother in the sect. The system remains completely silent, killing Zhao Mu's infinite money loop before it even begins. Zhao Mu concludes that repeated gifts to the same person cannot be farmed endlessly, and begins considering another target. Before he can choose one, a familiar voice calls out to junior brother Zhao. Lu Qi steps forward in disbelief because she was certain Chu Jiaoran's latest visit should have left Zhao Mu dead. Zhao Mu greets Lu Qi respectfully, knowing this inner disciple is already suspicious that he survived Chu Jiaoran. Lu Qi studies him like a corpse that somehow forgot to stay dead. Her memory of Chu Jiaoran taking him away makes his healthy appearance even harder to explain. Zhao Mu claims senior sister Chu showed mercy and says his survival was nothing more than luck. Lu Qi grabs his wrist and confirms his pulse is far stronger than a drained servant should be. Rather than question him publicly, she summons her flying sword and pulls him away by the hand. Lu Qi orders Zhao Mu onto the blade before anyone nearby can overhear their conversation. The narrow ride leaves Zhao Mu clinging awkwardly while Lu Qi pretends the arrangement is completely normal. Once airborne, he leans closer and realizes her concern may be more personal than simple curiosity. Lu Qi warns that staying with Chu Jiaoran will eventually cost Zhao Mu all his pure yang power and his life. She offers him protection, although the blush on her face makes the offer sound considerably less professional. Zhao Mu gladly places himself in senior sister Lu's care and immediately tests how close that permission allows. Her sword carries them straight into the inner sect, far beyond the servant quarters Zhao Mu normally inhabits. Lu Qi brings him inside her private residence and acts like kidnapping him. Her conversation is perfectly reasonable. Zhao Mu follows while considering how her 9-yin mystic art could interact with his newly awakened system. By the time Lu Qi walks away to prepare herself, Zhao Mu has already decided to risk another return. Lu Qi steps into a medicinal bath, believing the locked room gives her a rare moment of privacy. The warm water finally lets her relax after the strange encounter outside. That peace lasts seconds because Zhao Mu strolls inside and tells her they need to cultivate together. Lu Qi nearly jumps from the tub and demands to know why he entered without permission. Zhao Mu joins her anyway, explaining that his red yang power can help both of them advance. He also realizes Lu Qi has cultivated the 9-yin mystic art without ever taking a cultivation partner. Zhao Mu treats that discovery as excellent news because it means her yin energy remains exceptionally pure. Lu Qi is embarrassed, suspicious, and clearly wondering when she lost control of her own room. She warns Zhao Mu that crossing an inner disciple carries consequences he may not survive. The last man who behaved recklessly around her had his meridians destroyed and his future permanently ruined. Zhao Mu briefly questions every decision that brought him into this bathtub. Lu Qi calmly adds that nobody will learn what happens here, as long as neither of them speaks. Her answer removes the threat and leaves Zhao Mu staring at a completely different kind of invitation. Realizing she is accepted, Zhao Mu stops hesitating and allows their cultivation energies to connect. The two begin dual cultivation, carefully circulating yin and yang power through the same cycle. Behind the closed doors, Lu Qi draws red yang energy while Zhao Mu waits for the system to respond. By morning, the courtyard is quiet even though both cultivators have spent the entire night working. Lu Qi collapses onto the bed, exhausted but noticeably stronger than before. Zhao Mu remains awake as the return system finally records the red yang power she absorbed. An 800-fold return strengthens his red yang sacred body and raises its intensity far beyond yesterday's level. The new power surges through Zhao Mu, confirming this cultivation method benefits him far more than it costs. Lu Qi can barely move and admits Zhao Mu's endurance exceeded anything she expected. Before falling asleep, she rewards him with a vial of cultivation pills and tells him not to disturb her. Zhao Mu praises her generosity, then notices the pills create another easy opportunity to trigger his system. While Lu Qi sleeps, he takes one pill from the vial and prepares to return the gift immediately. Zhao Mu quietly feeds it to her so the system recognizes Lu Qi as the recipient. Once the first pill goes down successfully, he decides there is no reason to stop at one. Zhao Mu empties the remaining pills into his hand and returns the entire batch to her. Lu Qi sleeps peacefully while the medicine begins circulating through her exhausted body. Golden energy spreads through her meridians, restoring her strength and pushing her cultivation forward. The system answers Zhao Mu's generosity with a far stronger pill before he even leaves her room. Zhao Mu examines the marrow cleansing pill returned by the system and realizes it can completely refine his weakened body. Even before taking it, he senses enough medicinal energy inside to transform an ordinary cultivator from the ground up. A stronger foundation would finally let Zhao Mu compete with the trained disciples who once stood far beyond his reach. He swallows the pill immediately, because letting valuable medicine collect dust has never made anyone stronger. The medicinal power erupts through his meridians and begins cleansing every weakness left by a year of exploitation. Zhao Mu settles into meditation while the pill rebuilds his body and strengthens his red yang sacred body. When Lu Qi wakes, she finds Zhao Mu overflowing with energy instead of looking exhausted beside her. The purification also covered him in impurities, so Zhao Mu starts washing them away before leaving. Lu Qi watches quietly and struggles to connect this powerful physique with yesterday's supposedly fragile servant. Her curiosity wins and she pulls the curtain aside for a closer look. Lu Qi grabs Zhao Mu's arm and confirms that his muscles and internal energy have both become far denser. Zhao Mu finally notices the inspection and turns toward the senior sister who thought she was being subtle. Caught completely off guard, Lu Qi backs against the wall and suddenly has no explanation for touching him. Zhao Mu closes the distance and reminds her that she was the one who invited him into this arrangement. Lu Qi's curiosity leads into another private cultivation session behind the curtains. By the time it ends, Lu Qi is exhausted again, while Zhao Mu's improved sacred body still has energy remaining. He gets dressed and leaves her to recover, thoroughly satisfied with the benefits of his new constitution. Zhao Mu moves through the sect with a speed and confidence that would have been impossible one day earlier. For the first time since being kidnapped, he feels like he can actively build a future instead of merely surviving. His next destination is the outer sect market, where disciples trade weapons, medicine, and cultivation supplies. Zhao Mu spends part of his spirit stone fortune on several inexpensive first-grade flying swords. Although basic, even a first-grade flying sword can attack remotely once a cultivator properly controls it. He stores the boxed swords and plans to use them for both protection and another system experiment. Before Zhao Mu can leave, an angry voice recognizes him and calls him out in the middle of the market. Boss Nu blocks the road with several horned followers and looks personally offended that Zhao Mu is still breathing. Nu has spent months chasing Zhu Jiaran, so the human she repeatedly visits has become an obvious target for his jealousy. Seeing Zhao Mu healthy after another night with her sends whatever patience Nu possessed straight into retirement. He grabs Zhao Mu by the collar and demands to know what truly happened between him and Zhu Jiaran. Zhao Mu calmly removes Nu's hand as red yang energy wraps around his fingers. Humiliated in front of his crew, Nu abandons the conversation and throws his full strength into a punch. Zhao Mu catches the strike with one hand and proves their physical strength is nowhere near equal. The effortless block leaves him smiling because the marrow cleansing pill has already surpassed his expectations. Nu activates his demonic bloodline and forces even more power through his massive body. A storm of heavy punches surrounds Zhao Mu as Nu tries to overwhelm him through speed and numbers. Zhao Mu remains perfectly calm while each attack passes within inches of its target. Rather than trading blows blindly, he studies Nu's rhythm and waits for the first genuine opening. One clean movement knocks the barrage aside and leaves Nu exposed before he understands what happened. Zhao Mu gathers red yang power into his fist and launches his counterattack. The strength closed heard a strange noise, then when she opened her was all that didn't interfere. Boss Nu hits the ground defeated, leaving his crew wondering how a servant disciple became this strong overnight. Zhao Mu tells the followers to collect their leader and disappear before he decides to continue the lesson. To make the warning clearer, he opens the sword boxes and orders a flying blade forward. The sword stops beside one follower's head, proving Zhao Mu can reach them before they take another step. The frightened demons carry Boss Nu away while pretending this retreat was somehow their own decision. Once the flying sword changes hands during the confrontation, the system recognizes another completed return. Zhao Mu receives the 5th grade flying sword Heavenly Star Hunter, an enormous upgrade over the cheap blades he purchased. He walks away with his reward while 2 remaining followers quietly convince themselves they can attack from behind. Both demons leap at him with concealed weapons and abandon the mercy Zhao Mu just offered them. He releases Heavenly Star Hunter's pressure and the overwhelming sword aura freezes their attack before it reaches him. The pair immediately drop their weapons and kneel, discovering that surrender was the smartest technique they knew. Nearby, a mysterious woman struggles to suppress a violent surge of energy reacting inside her body. Her name is Mu Juling, and she enters the market carrying a problem far more dangerous than Boss knew. Mu Juling arrives after the fight and seems far more interested in Zhao Mu than the defeated troublemakers. She immediately scolds Zhao Mu for causing such a commotion despite lacking any official status within the sect. Her attention shifts toward the two horned disciples still lingering behind them. The pair angrily demand to know why she interfered when this dispute had nothing to do with her. Mu Juling introduces herself and calmly asks whether they still have a problem now that they know her name. Both disciples recognize the infamous intersect swordswoman and realize they just challenged the worst possible person. They abandon their injured companions and sprint away before Mu Juling changes her mind about sparing them. With the street cleared, Mu Juling points at Zhao Mu and declares that he is coming with her. She catches him before he can retreat and begins examining the unusual energy flowing through his body. Mu Juling leans closer because his powerful yang aura is completely different from that of an ordinary servant disciple. Zhao Mu maintains a polite smile while wondering whether this rescue has created an even larger problem. Rather than threaten him, Mu Juling cheerfully takes his arm and treats them like old friends. That friendliness feels strange because Mu Juling is famous throughout the Saint-Chuan demon sect for her ruthless swordsmanship. Her playful expression makes it difficult for Zhao Mu to connect this woman with all the terrifying stories surrounding her. Mu Juling laughs at his caution and assures him that dying around her is not as easy as people claim. Before Zhao Mu can object, she grabs his hand and tells him to follow. Mu Juling activates a crimson movement technique and drags Zhao Mu straight through the crowded market. The sudden acceleration nearly throws him off balance as the buildings blur around them. She forms another hand seal and pushes the technique even faster. A red trail carries them beyond the market and toward a secluded residence deeper inside the sect. Zhao Mu circulates his Regyang energy through his body just to remain stable during the journey. They finally arrive at Mu Juling's private residence, where she casually invites him inside. The room contains shelves of cultivation texts that Mu Juling reads whenever she manages to escape her responsibilities. She immediately leaps onto the bed while Zhao Mu is still processing why she brought him into her private quarters. Mu Juling settles in comfortably and invites him to stop standing around like a frightened guest. Zhao Mu realizes the feared swordswoman behaves completely differently whenever nobody else is watching. Mu Juling tells him to relax because she brought him here to help rather than interrogate him. Zhao Mu gathers the manuals she selected and examines the techniques hidden inside her collection. Among them are the true chapter of sword control and the more advanced Wenqi mystic heart sword art. Mu Juling explains that proper sword control is the foundation Zhao Mu needs before attempting the stronger technique. She hands him the protected manual case and gives him permission to study it inside her residence. When Zhao Mu questions whether a servant disciple may read these techniques, Mu Juling dismisses the rules as her problem. She promises to handle his status and any other complications while he focuses entirely on training. Mu Juling leaves him with one final instruction to make good use of the opportunity she has given him. Zhao Mu watches her carefully because this amount of generosity usually comes with expectations attached. She cheerfully says goodbye and closes the door before he can ask what she expects in return. Whatever her motive may be, Zhao Mu decides access to two valuable sword manuals is too useful to refuse. He sits down with the true chapter of sword control and begins studying its circulation method. Golden sword intent surrounds Zhao Mu as he repeatedly attempts to understand the technique's deeper principles. Hours of effort leave him sprawled across the floor without making meaningful progress. Zhao Mu realizes his improved physique cannot compensate for the mediocre comprehension inherited with this body. While he considers another approach, Mu Juling's small-horned spirit beast wanders into the room chewing leaves. The creature innocently studies Zhao Mu without realizing it has just become part of his next experiment. Seeing the spirit beast gives Zhao Mu an idea, because the system can return knowledge as long as he first gives knowledge away. He catches the confused creature by its horns before it can escape the lesson. Zhao Mu uses spiritual sense to teach it basic arithmetic, leaving the poor beast completely overwhelmed by numbers. The system accepts the lesson and returns a major increase in comprehension, proving Zhao Mu's strange method actually works. With his comprehension greatly improved, Zhao Mu returns to sword control and finally understands the principles that stopped him before. He opens his eyes after connecting every circulation route and mental formula inside the technique. The flying sword answers his thoughts perfectly, proving he has mastered the foundation Mu Juling gave him. Zhao Mu realizes improved comprehension may be even more valuable than another immediate increase in cultivation. The horned spirit beast approaches again without realizing Zhao Mu has discovered a new use for it. He catches the nervous creature and prepares another lesson before it can escape the classroom. Teaching it calculus triggers a 100-fold return and raises Zhao Mu's comprehension to an entirely different level. The overwhelmed creature reaches its learning limit, preventing Zhao Mu from endlessly repeating the same lesson. Rather than surrender, he searches Muzuling's shelves for completely different subjects he can teach. Jiamu demonstrates a basic fist technique and understands its deeper mechanics almost as quickly as he explains them. The spirit beast barely avoids the practice strike and begins reconsidering the benefits of higher education. Formations, body arts, and cultivation theories become increasingly easy for Jiamu to absorb and pass along. Soon every available manual is floating around him as he turns Muzuling's library into an accelerated study session. He even purchases more cheap books from a market vendor because any new subject could produce another comprehension return. The spirit beast eventually reappears carrying a strange carved bone between its teeth. Jiamu rewards its effort with a pat and takes the bone for a closer examination. Although it resembles an ordinary chew toy, the intricate markings suggest it contains something far more valuable. Purple energy immediately enters Jiamu's arm the moment he touches the carved surface. A fragmented cultivation method begins forcing itself into his mind before he can release the bone. The violet knowledge overwhelms his meridians and turns the harmless-looking relic into a spiritual migraine. Jiamu coughs blood as the incomplete technique clashes with the red yang energy inside his body. He throws the bone away and stops circulating the foreign power before it causes permanent damage. Even on the floor, the relic continues releasing purple energy and confirms that its inheritance remains active. Muzhuling returns at that moment and finds Jiamu sitting injured beside the suspicious bone. She hurries behind him, although the red boxes following her contain dinner rather than emergency medicine. Muzhuling places the food on a table and decides Jiamu needs to recover before answering questions. She proudly presents the meal she prepared and expects him to appreciate every bite. Jiamu accepts the food while Muzhuling personally makes sure he eats enough to regain his strength. Her attention finally shifts toward the carved bone still surrounded by unmistakable Xuanming energy. Muzhuling identifies the inheritance as the chaos Xuanming art and offers it to Jiamu because she cannot cultivate it herself. The system recognizes her gift and presents Jiamu with another return opportunity. Instead of the damaged inheritance, the return contains a complete and perfected version of the chaos Xuanming art. Jiamu accepts immediately because refusing a complete top-level technique would be criminally poor decision-making. Muzhuling studies the reacting bone and wonders why its hidden inheritance suddenly feels so much clearer. When Jiamu claims he already understands the complete method, she nearly drops the relic in disbelief. Muzhuling reminds him that cultivators spend years deciphering this art, yet Jiamu apparently finished during dinner. He tests the opening circulation route and releases an enormous burst of golden red yang energy. Jiamu quickly discovers that the cold chaos Xuanming art directly conflicts with his intensely yang constitution. Muzhuling watches his uncomfortable realization with the expression of someone who already knew this would happen. She confirms the incompatibility is painfully obvious and tells Jiamu that forcing it alone will only injure him. Fortunately, Muzhuling can use her own Xuanming energy to balance the violent power inside his meridians. She pulls Jiamu into position before he can fully process how direct her solution is. Their energies connect as Muzhuling guides the cold Xuanming power through Jiamu's overheated circulation routes. The collision between yin and yang erupts into a purple pillar that blasts through the residence. Muzhuling suppresses the runaway energy while Jiamu struggles to keep the newly learned technique under control. The explosion attracts a powerful woman who descends above the ruined building and immediately recognizes Muzhuling's aura. Muzhuling freezes when she realizes her master has arrived at the worst possible moment. After seeing the scene below, her master coldly asks whether she interrupted their supposed good deed. The Santis's pressure keeps Jiamu and Muzhuling pinned among the ruins, while both struggle to steady themselves. Muzhuling's master descends through the purple aura. Already furious about the scene she believes she interrupted, she rebukes Muzhuling for neglecting cultivation and hiding a servant disciple inside the residence meant for her training. Even Jiamu struggles to remain upright because this woman could crush him without lifting a finger. Muzhuling kneels and accepts the blame, hoping obedience will stop her master from targeting Jiamu. The Santis summons a sword and offers forgiveness under one brutal condition. Muzhuling must kill Jiamu herself, sever the attachment, and spend 30 years cultivating in seclusion. Muzhuling refuses to treat Jiamu's life as a punishment intended for her. Through tears, she explains that Jiamu was brought there by force and begs her master to spare him. The plea only angers the Saintess, who sees Muzhuling's concern for him as another act of defiance. Her pressure intensifies until purple energy tears across the ground surrounding them. Jiamu releases the red yang sacred body and forces himself forward to protect Muzhuling from the worst of it. Muzhuling looks back in shock because the servant she tried to protect is somehow resisting a Saintess. Jiamu steadies her and refuses to let either of them remain helpless under that pressure. The Saintess finally studies him seriously and notices that his pure yang power has entered his flesh and blood. With the secret exposed, Zhao Mu admits that he awakened the Red Yang sacred body. The Saintess recognizes a rare constitution with enough potential to completely change Zhao Mu's value within the sect. Mu Juling finally understands why Zhao Mu recovered so quickly and why his energy always felt abnormal. Zhao Mu respectfully greets the Saintess and dismisses Mu Juling's reckless talk about making him her cultivation partner. The Saintess withdraws her killing intent, although her aura makes it clear that Zhao Mu remains beneath her control. Before he can negotiate further, she seals Mu Juling inside her purple energy and orders her disciple home. The Saintess carries Mu Juling towards Ziyun Peak, leaving Zhao Mu alone beside the destroyed residence. Watching them disappear, Zhao Mu admits that true strength can decide someone's life with a single thought. The humiliation hardens his resolve because he refuses to remain at anyone else's mercy. Zhao Mu returns to the servant quarters after surviving an encounter that should have ended very differently. Once safely inside, he closes the door and finally turns his attention back toward the system reward. The system presents the pure Yang Xuanming art, alongside the knowledge needed to cultivate it correctly. Zhao Mu confirms the initiation and allows the system to transfer the complete technique directly into his mind. Golden power surges to his meridians as the new method begins harmonizing with his Red Yang sacred body. Every circulation route unfolds before Zhao Mu, saving him years of slowly deciphering the complicated technique. The initiation soon demands far more spiritual energy than his body can provide on its own. Zhao Mu releases the enormous supply of spirit stones he earned from the system's earlier return. The stones break apart and flood the room with concentrated spiritual energy. Pure Yang Xuanming art pulls that energy into Zhao Mu and rapidly converts it into his own cultivation. The entire servant district grows quiet, while Zhao Mu continues cultivating through the night. By morning, the final stream of spiritual power settles into his newly strengthened foundation. Zhao Mu checks his condition and discovers that he reached the third layer of foundation establishment in one night. That progress is useful but impossible to explain, so he decides to conceal the full extent of his breakthrough. After stretching out his stiff body, Zhao Mu steps outside feeling considerably stronger than yesterday. His peaceful morning immediately ends when several servant disciples appear and call his name. Their leader is Hu Cheng, an 8th-layer chi-refining disciple who controls the servant quarters through intimidation. Hu Qiang demands that Zhao Mu share whatever benefits he recently obtained with his so-called brothers. Everyone knows Hu Qiang regularly beats weaker servants and steals the spirit stones they spend months saving. Zhao Mu openly calls him a thief and asks how much wealth he has collected through those robberies. Hu Qiang charges forward, deciding that Zhao Mu needs another beating before he remembers his position. The heavy punch misses completely as Zhao Mu slips beside him without any visible effort. Zhao Mu answers with one clean strike and sends Hu Qiang flying before he can recover his balance. Hu Qiang crashes into his own followers and knocks the entire group across the courtyard. As they stare in disbelief, Zhao Mu reveals that he has already entered the Foundation establishment realm. Hu Qiang orders his remaining followers to combine their strength, hoping several chi-refining disciples can overwhelm Zhao Mu together. Green spiritual energy surrounds the group as they charge from every direction and leave Zhao Mu nowhere obvious to retreat. Zhao Mu slips through the formation so cleanly that their coordinated attack only succeeds in blocking one another. The watching servants expected his recent breakthrough to be unstable, yet Zhao Mu handles the entire group without wasting energy. Once they crowd together, Zhao Mu gathers Red Yang power between his fingers and prepares a single response for everyone. The resulting shockwave clears the courtyard and sends Hu Qiang's followers tumbling away from him. Refusing to accept the humiliation, Hu Qiang activates his demonic bloodline and charges back with his physical strength fully unleashed. A massive tiger-shaped aura rises behind Hu Qiang as he commits everything to one desperate attack. Zhao Mu calmly concentrates Red Yang energy around his fist and waits for Hu Qiang to enter striking distance. One direct counter breaks through the tiger aura and knocks Hu Qiang out of his transformed state. The defeated bully crashes into another follower, proving that his strongest technique only created extra cleanup. Even after that beating, Hu Qiang promises revenge and demands that Zhao Mu wait for him. Zhao Mu steps onto his back and decides the speech has already lasted longer than the fight. He silences Hu Qiang with a final warning and ends his control over the servant quarters. The surrounding disciples immediately celebrate, but Zhao Mu raises his hand because he has not finished dealing with Hu Qiang's crimes. He confiscates the bag containing the spirit stones Hu Qiang stole from weaker servants over the years. Rather than keep the fortune, Zhao Mu announces that the stones will return to the people they were taken from. He releases the entire collection into the air and sends glittering spirit stones raining across the courtyard. The servants scramble to collect their stolen savings while Hu Qiang can only watch his personal treasury disappear. Because Zhao Mu willingly gave away the recovered wealth, the system rewards him with a fortune far larger than the amount he distributed. Wang Chan approaches after the commotion, and Zhao Mu offers his old friend a pill that can improve his cultivation foundation. Wang Chan refuses immediately because Zhao Mu has already given him more resources than he knows how to repay. Zhao Mu solves the argument by flicking the pill straight into Wang Chan's mouth before he can dodge. The system records another successful gift and returns medicine far more valuable than the pill Zhao Mu sacrificed. As the medicinal energy spreads, Wang Chan feels his old injuries easing and his stagnant cultivation beginning to move again. Zhao Mu leaves him to absorb the pill, satisfied that helping a friend and earning a reward can be the same decision. With the servant quarters handled, Zhao Mu heads directly toward the outer Sect management hall. Inside, the manager is focused on controlling a large refining furnace and barely notices anyone entering. He continues chanting through the process, completely confident that the unstable cauldron remains under control. Zhao Mu politely announces himself and explains that he came to register his foundation establishment breakthrough. The manager barely looks back because servant disciples claiming sudden breakthroughs are apparently not rare enough. Zhao Mu notices the furnace's spiritual flow collapsing and points out the exact moment it becomes dangerous. The cauldron explodes before the manager can respond and fills the hall with smoke and broken metal. He emerges from the wreckage coughing with considerably less dignity than he had a few seconds earlier. Embarrassed by the failure, the manager immediately tries to blame Zhao Mu for disturbing his concentration. Zhao Mu refuses to argue and calmly reminds him that the promotion still needs to be processed. While the manager repairs the damaged furnace, Zhao Mu assures him that compensation will not be a problem. Several bags containing tens of thousands of spirit stones appear, making the manager spray out his drink. His anger disappears as quickly as the first payment vanishes inside his robe. Zhao Mu recognizes the change immediately and realizes this administrative problem has a very simple solution. The manager suddenly becomes friendly and explains that Zhao Mu's promotion can absolutely be handled without unnecessary delays. When Zhao Mu produces several more bags, even the experienced manager struggles to maintain a professional expression. They settle the registration terms, and Zhao Mu receives the rights and privileges of an official outer disciple. A final cultivation test shatters under Zhao Mu's spiritual power and removes any doubt that his breakthrough is genuine. Promotion matters because Chu Jiaran still views Zhao Mu as a valuable resource she can collect whenever she pleases. Her control over weaker disciples proves that remaining powerless and isolated would eventually place him back under her influence. With the paperwork complete, Zhao Mu thanks the manager and leaves before another convenient fee can appear. He rides his flying sword toward the residential peaks reserved for the sect's more talented disciples. The information Zhao Mu purchased has already given him a new senior sister whose cultivation may work with his system. Night settles over the St. Yuan demon sect as he quietly enters the Heavenly Pride district. Zhao Mu follows the winding mountain route and keeps his arrival discreet to avoid attracting unnecessary attention. His destination is a brightly lit residence where the senior sister he selected is currently staying. Nearby, 5th-ranked Heavenly Pride Long Tianxiang arrives with Elder Lu Haikong and unknowingly places himself directly in Zhao Mu's path. Long Tianxiang and Elder Lu Haikong discuss private business involving a powerful Heavenly Pride living within this district. Long Tianxiang maintains a respectful smile, although his interest in visiting the residence appears far more personal. Hidden nearby, Zhao Mu uses their conversation to confirm that the senior sister he seeks lives inside. He waits until they leave, flies directly to the residence, and calls for the senior sister within. The woman who answers welcomes Zhao Mu with enough enthusiasm to confirm that he found the correct place. She quickly pulls him indoors before another disciple notices a man visiting her residence this late. Once alone, she closes the distance and makes it clear that Zhao Mu's unusual yang energy attracted her attention. Zhao Mu remembers Chu Jiaran and quietly hopes the senior sister will not treat him like another disposable cultivation resource. His hesitation annoys her because she has already decided what kind of cooperation she wants from him. Rather than waste time pretending otherwise, she directly proposes that the two cultivate together. Zhao Mu agrees, allowing their yin and yang energies to connect through a private dual cultivation session. The senior sister abandons her earlier restraint and tells Zhao Mu to use his full strength. When the session finally ends, she falls asleep while Zhao Mu waits for the system to calculate his return. The system records the yang power he supplied and compensates him with an increase to his pure yang foundation. Although the reward is useful, Zhao Mu realizes later returns will not always match the absurd scale of his first one. He leaves the sleeping senior sister alone and turns his attention toward converting the reward into actual cultivation. His experiences with Chu Jiaran and Lu Qi confirm that stronger cultivation partners bring better returns and considerably greater complications. Zhao Mu surrounds himself with spirit stones and begins circulating the pure Yangshen Mart. The accumulated energy pushes him beyond the third layer and directly into the fourth layer of foundation establishment. That breakthrough consumes every spirit stone he prepared, leaving the once valuable storage bag completely empty. Even so, Zhao Mu's red yang sacred body becomes denser and far more powerful than it was before. A human shadow suddenly appears beyond the screen, interrupting Zhao Mu before he can examine the improvement further. He lifts the window and prepares to confront whoever entered the residence without announcing themselves. Instead, Zhao Mu finds the same woman fully dressed and carrying herself with the authority of an important sect figure. He offers an awkward greeting while trying to understand why her entire attitude has suddenly changed. She finally introduces herself as An Zixuan, a scientist whose identity makes Zhao Mu's relaxed smile immediately less confident. Zhao Mu acts pleased to meet her while silently processing the scale of the situation he just walked into. And Zixuan studies his strengthened body and confirms that his pure yang energy is even richer than she expected. One sharp touch verifies that the power within Zhao Mu's meridians can help resolve her own cultivation problem. And Zixuan orders him to supply that yang energy and assist her with another cultivation session. Zhao Mu misreads how cooperative she intends to be and receives an immediate warning before his hand reaches her. He apologizes respectfully and attempts to restart the conversation with far better survival instincts. And Zixuan releases her purple spiritual pressure and removes any illusion that Zhao Mu controls this negotiation. The sudden force throws him backward and pins his strengthened body against the floor. She tells Zhao Mu to stop making excuses and give her a direct answer about whether he will cooperate. Her yin energy presses against his meridians, making refusal feel considerably less realistic than it did seconds earlier. Zhao Mu accepts and cheekily promises to cooperate with whatever harvesting method Lady Zixuan prefers. That phrasing leaves Anjixuan visibly embarrassed, despite the overwhelming pressure still surrounding her. She opens a purple portal and refuses to explain their destination when Zhao Mu begins asking questions. The swirling energy pulls both cultivators from the residence before anyone outside can detect their departure. They emerge beside an enormous ancient tree containing a secluded cultivation ground hidden within its trunk. And Zixuan leads Zhao Mu away from the portal and toward the entrance carved into the mountain-sized tree. She explains that this isolated location will prevent the rest of the sect from witnessing what happens during their cultivation. Zhao Mu cannot resist pointing out that someone so forceful has suddenly become extremely concerned about privacy. And Zixuan's flushed expression proves the observation landed exactly where Zhao Mu intended. He laughs and treats her embarrassment like a small victory after being dragged across the sect. And Zixuan immediately wraps a strip of cloth across his mouth before another smart comment escapes. She binds Zhao Mu and marches him toward the tree while he protests through the improvised gag. When he continues struggling, and Zixuan launches a flower petal technique and orders him to finally stay quiet. Zhao Mu finishes washing and emerges from the water with his strength fully restored. And Zixuan orders him to clean himself properly but refuses to explain what she has planned. Zhao Mu starts teasing her about the suspicious treatment, so An Zixuan immediately gathers her purple spiritual energy. Before he can get another word out, she launches him straight into a private chamber. Zhao Mu gets thrown around once again and realizes Andra has apparently made this her preferred method of transportation. He lands inside the room unharmed, although the strangely prepared surroundings tell him this was definitely intentional. A pair of unfamiliar presences approaches while Zhao Mu tries to understand what kind of test he has been dropped into. The newcomers introduce themselves as the Catfolk twins, An Lei and An Yuan. Both sisters crowd around Zhao Mu and jokingly ask whether they are not attractive enough to earn his attention. And Zixuan sent the twins to test Zhao Mu's pure yang endurance and determine how unusual his constitution truly is. Once Zhao Mu understands the assignment, his nervous expression turns into the confident smile of someone who has already solved it. He catches one sister before she can control the encounter and immediately reverses the pressure. The sudden change leaves her completely unprepared as Zhao Mu proves he will not quietly follow their lead. Her sister protests and tells Zhao Mu to be gentler, despite being the one who helped start this entire mess. Neither twin expected Zhao Mu to possess this much stamina or maintain such complete control over his pure yang energy. And Zixuan observes from nearby, looking increasingly irritated that her carefully arranged test is becoming Zhao Mu's victory lap. By the time the examination ends, both twins are exhausted while Zhao Mu still looks perfectly capable of continuing. He calmly checks whether they want another round, and their defeated expressions provide a very clear answer. And Lael and An Yuan support each other as they return to An Zixuan and admit that Zhao Mu overwhelmed them both. And Zixuan listens from her seat without interrupting, wanting an honest assessment of Zhao Mu's actual limits. Her amusement grows when the twins explain that his pure yang foundation is far stronger than either of them expected. She presses them for confirmation because overpowering two trained cultivators without exhausting himself should not be possible at Zhao Mu's level. Both sisters bow and confirm that Zhao Mu passed the test with plenty of strength remaining. Zhao Mu finally returns after getting dressed and waits to hear An Zixuan's official judgment. Instead of acting impressed, he casually calls the entire test only average and immediately gets on An Zixuan's nerves. She rewards him anyway by tossing over a storage pouch filled with cultivation resources. The sight of valuable spirit stones instantly improves Zhao Mu's mood and makes every second of the test feel worthwhile. Now properly dressed, he pockets the reward and thanks An Zixuan with an enthusiasm that is suspiciously financial. And Zixuan notices he is still standing around and bluntly asks what else he could possibly be waiting for. Zhao Mu grins and suggests that she could personally verify whether the twins were exaggerating his abilities. And Zixuan immediately understands what he is implying, and her composure briefly gives way to embarrassment. Rather than answer him, she opens another portal and forcefully sends the shameless junior disciple back home. Purple energy tears through Zhao Mu's room before depositing him inside with all the grace of thrown luggage. He lands in a seated position and quietly accepts that teleportation around An Zixuan will never be comfortable. The system activates because the pure yang energy Zhao Mu contributed during the twins' test qualifies as another personal loss. Its return function multiplies that contribution and converts it into a far greater cultivation reward for Zhao Mu. Golden spiritual energy erupts around him as he immediately circulates his technique and begins absorbing the compensation. Once the energy stabilizes, Zhao Mu feels his cultivation rise again and smiles at how profitable An Zixuan's test became. Between her payment and the system's return, Zhao Mu concludes that helping the Saintess may be his best business arrangement yet. Elsewhere, An Zixuan samples the restorative broth prepared after the twins completed their assignment. The first taste reminds her of their embarrassing report and brings Zhao Mu's smug expression straight back into her mind. Residual pure yang energy within the tonic affects her more strongly than expected and briefly disrupts her composure, and Zixuan immediately meditates to refine the unexpected energy before it can interfere with her cultivation. And Lian and Yuan watch from the garden, confused by why their normally composed master suddenly entered seclusion. Morning settles over another residence within the sect as Zhao Mu continues cultivating nearby. Mu Julin wakes and stretches before sensing an unusually powerful spiritual fluctuation coming from the adjoining room. Looking inside, she discovers Zhao Mu surrounded by golden energy and realizes his cultivation has advanced yet again. Zhao Mu opens his eyes and greets Mu Julin while she studies his impossible progress with growing interest. Mu Julin moves closer and asks Zhao Mu for help with a matter that clearly involves more than a casual morning visit. Climbing Heaven Road is an ancient St. Yuan demon sect trial used to measure the strength of its most talented disciples. Every challenger enters a separate gateway, while their progress determines their position on the sect's rankings. Demon-blooded disciples thrive in these trials, and bull demons, like Nu Tie, are especially proud of their overwhelming physical strength. Zhao Mu accompanies Lu Qi to the crowded entrance after she decides to test her newly improved cultivation. Lu Qi explains that confronting Chu Jiaran is not merely about protecting Zhao Mu because she also wants to prove herself. Everyone praises Chu Jiaran as the outer sect's greatest female prodigy, but Lu Qi refuses to accept that judgment without testing it herself. Her determination leaves Zhao Mu with nothing to argue against, especially when he understands how much this challenge means to her. Since he has recently become an outer disciple, Zhao Mu decides to enter Climbing Heaven Road alongside her. The pair approaches the enormous portal and immediately attracts the attention of everyone gathered around the plaza. Nearby disciples admit they can barely understand how the sect's greatest prodigies survive the later stages of this brutal trial. Another group surrounds Nu Tie and asks how he managed to become so much stronger in such a short period. Nu Tai proudly credits his talent and hard work, giving the exact answer expected from a man built almost entirely from confidence. His celebration ends when he notices Zhao Mu and Lu Qi approaching together through the crowd. Chu Jiaran is also present, watching Zhao Mu accompany another woman with an expression that hides very little irritation. Recognizing the man who once held Chu Jiaran's attention immediately gives Nu Tai a more interesting target than the secret realm. He leaves his admirers behind and marches directly toward Zhao Mu before the pair can enter the portal. Nu Tai blocks their path because his obsession with Chu Jiaran has turned Zhao Mu into a personal enemy. Zhao Mu's complete lack of concern only makes Nu Tai angrier because even his intimidation attempt is getting ignored. Unable to tolerate that disrespect, Nu Tai calls him a bastard and decides to settle everything through force. His demonic energy erupts as he charges forward without caring how many disciples are standing nearby. Nu Tai hurls a massive stone toward the pair, forcing Zhao Mu to pull Lu Qi behind him and order the attack to stop. A defensive talisman activates beneath Zhao Mu and forms a crimson barrier before the stone can reach them. The projectile crashes against the barrier and shatters, while Zhao Mu remains completely unharmed behind its protection. Seeing Nu Tai's strongest introduction accomplish nothing leaves Zhao Mu smiling and Lu Qi noticeably relieved. Rather than continue trading threats, Jiaomu proposes a wager that will let their strength decide who walks away embarrassed. Niu Te accepts immediately and tosses aside his weapon because a direct contest of physical power sounds impossible for him to lose. Jiaomu places his own valuable prize into the wager, proving he is confident enough to put something real on the line. The two cultivators face each other as Niu Te prepares to overpower Jiaomu before the entire outer sect. News of the confrontation spreads quickly, and disciples crowd around the temporary arena to watch the result. Some recognize Jiaomu as the newly promoted outer disciple whose pure yang constitution has already made him extremely famous among the female cultivators. Zhu Jiaoran enjoys the attention surrounding the duel because she expects Jiaomu to regret challenging one of her admirers. Lu Qi notices Zhu Jiaoran's smug expression and realizes this confrontation has become another battle between the two women. Certain that Niu Te's bloodline will crush Jiaomu, Zhu Jiaoran openly encourages him to stop holding back. Niu Te throws his opening punch with full force, but Jiaomu catches it cleanly and stops his arm without taking a step. Humiliated by the effortless block, Niu Te releases more demonic energy and begins using his after-image step. Lu Qi becomes nervous because this technique allows Niu Te to combine his natural strength with a sudden increase in speed. Niu Te launches himself high above Jiaomu and pours every bit of his enhanced power into one descending strike. The attack smashes into the arena with enough force to bury the surrounding platform beneath a cloud of dust. Spectators explain that the after-image step multiplies Niu Te's power, making the strike far stronger than his normal attacks. Zhu Jiaoran's followers celebrate as though the fight is finished, claiming this is what happens to anyone who offends her. Zhu Jiaoran turns away with a satisfied smile because she believes Jiaomu has finally been taught his place. Her confidence disappears when the dust clears, and she realizes Jiaomu somehow blocked the enhanced attack. Jiaomu has already seized both of Niu Te's horns, using them to force the much larger fighter downward. Niu Te drops to his knees and struggles helplessly, unable to understand how Jiaomu's strength can exceed his own. Still smiling, Jiaomu keeps him pinned and proves that having the larger body means very little when the power gap points the other way. Lu Qi watches with quiet satisfaction, while Zhu Jiaoran stares at the scene with growing frustration. Refusing to lose publicly, Niu Te secretly pulls out a blood-red pill while Jiaomu still has him restrained. He bites down on the pill and forces its energy into his demonic bloodline despite the obvious strain on his body. A violent burst of power knocks Jiaomu backward as Niu Te's body begins expanding inside the crimson aura. Niu Te activates his minotaur form and transforms into a far more powerful version of himself for the real fight. Jiaomu points out that Niu Te swallowed a pill during their duel, which looks suspiciously close to cheating. Lu Qi agrees, but Zhu Jiaoran insists that weapons, pills, and bloodline abilities all count as a cultivator's personal strength. In her mind, real opponents will never fight fairly, so Jiaomu has no right to complain now. Zhu Jiaoran remains certain that Niu Te's transformed body will overpower him and finally erase that annoying confidence. The pill forces Niu Te's demon blood into overdrive, increasing his size, speed, and physical strength at a dangerous cost. He launches himself forward like a living battering ram and tears across the arena before Jiaomu can settle his footing. The spectators can barely follow Niu Te's movements, proving this transformation improved far more than his raw power. Jiaomu responds with his own movement technique and leaves several after-images circling the charging demon. Niu Te still manages to graze his arm, warning Jiaomu that one clean hit could end the fight. His next charge misses completely and sends his enormous body crashing face-first into the stone platform. The impact shakes the entrance to Climbing Heaven Road and rattles the surrounding buildings. Nearby disciples struggle to remain standing while the arena continues trembling beneath them. Niu Te rises with his head spinning, although embarrassment pushes him back into the fight before his balance returns. He gathers another burst of crimson energy and rushes Jiaomu with everything the pill can still provide. This time, Jiaomu stops the incoming fist with one hand and releases the full strength of his foundation cultivation. Golden energy surges around him as he realizes Niu Te's transformation still cannot close their physical gap. Rather than keep dodging, Jiaomu charges directly into the larger demon and turns the duel into a head-on collision. His fist lands squarely against Niu Te's face and instantly breaks through the protection of the transformed bloodline. The enormous demon is lifted off his feet and launched across the arena from a single clean strike. Niu Te crashes beside Zhu Jiaoran hard enough to carve a broken trail through the stone floor. Zhu Jiaoran stares at the destruction in disbelief because the victory she considered guaranteed ended in one punch. Niu Te lies buried inside the shattered platform as the pill's power fades and leaves his body completely exhausted. The crowd finally realizes Jiaomu has already entered the Foundation establishment realm and hidden his advancement until now. Lu Qi rushes over and celebrates his victory without pretending she was ever calm during that final exchange. She stays close while checking his injured arm, relieved that Nu Tao's enhanced attack only left a shallow wound. Watching Lu Qi fuss over Zhao Mu makes Zhu Jiaoran more irritated than watching Nu Tai lose the actual fight. Her followers quickly obey when she orders them to retrieve Nu Ta before his condition becomes any worse. Several Bull Demon disciples approach their fallen companion while keeping a very respectful distance from Zhao Mu. None of them wants to continue Nu Ta's argument after seeing how efficiently their strongest fighter became floor decoration. Zhao Mu produces the spirit stones from their wager and casually tosses the pouch toward Nu Ta's companions. He returns the winnings as treatment money, leaving Nu Ta unconscious beneath the same wealth he expected to take home. The Bull Demons complain about his attitude, but Zhao Mu reminds them that generosity is still generosity. Because Zhao Mu voluntarily gives away the spirit stones, the system activates and returns a vastly multiplied reward. His satisfaction is interrupted when Zhu Jiaoran approaches with the same charming smile that once controlled him. Seeing Zhao Mu's new strength, Zhu Jiaoran openly admits that she finds her former human cauldron more appealing than ever. She extends her hand and invites him back as though their previous relationship ended without betrayal or humiliation. Zhao Mu immediately knocks her hand aside and makes it clear that her interest arrived far too late. He reminds Zhu Jiaoran that she discarded him when he seemed useless, so her sudden affection means absolutely nothing. That rejection destroys her playful mood and unleashes the fox demon's temper in front of the entire crowd. Lu Qi steps between them before Zhu Jiaoran can act and meets her demonic pressure with spiritual energy of her own. She refuses to let the woman who mistreated Zhao Mu approach him again simply because he has become valuable. Lu Qi declares that Zhao Mu is no longer alone and warns Zhu Jiaoran to keep her hands away from him. As they leave, Lu Qi promises that every humiliation Zhu Jiaoran caused Zhao Mu will eventually be repaid in full. Zhao Mu follows Lu Qi toward the portal, quietly impressed by how personally she has taken his old grudge. The pair enters Climbing Heaven Road together and leaves the damaged arena behind without giving Zhu Jiaoran another glance. Being ignored finally pushes Jiaoran over the edge as her furious aura sends nearby followers scrambling backward. She swears that neither Lu Qi nor Zhao Mu will escape her so easily after humiliating her in public. Zhu Jiaoran treats Zhao Mu's rejection as an insult to the Fox clan and immediately begins planning how to repay him. News of Nu Tai's humiliating defeat also reaches Nu Owl, a stronger bull demon who has no intention of letting the matter end there. Neo Ao travels to the Nine Dragons Sword Mound, one of the demon sect's holy cultivation grounds. At the center of the mountain, a senior disciple quietly meditates beneath an enormous sword while refining his sword intent. The disciple opens his eyes after sensing Nuo approaching, although he shows no interest in interrupting his training yet. With a casual motion, he sends his sword flying through the mountain and slices apart the surrounding stone. The blade returns to its position while the disciple remains seated, as though splitting a cliff was only a warm-up. Even after that display, he judges his progress as merely acceptable and continues refining his control. Nuo finally reaches the training ground and waits until the disciple acknowledges his presence. He respectfully asks for help dealing with Zhao Mu, explaining that the newcomer defeated Nu Ta and disgraced their clan. Rather than agree immediately, the Swordmound disciple releases several golden blades of condensed sword intent around himself. The blades converge on Nuo and force him to endure the pressure before he can receive anything. Nuo protects his vital points and withstands the test, although every beam feels sharp enough to pierce his body. His resistance proves sufficient, so the disciple stops the attack and decides Nuo can carry the power he intends to lend him. Nuo bows through the pain because borrowing this man's strength may be his only reliable way to crush Zhao Mu. A final burst of sword intent lifts Nuo from the ground and drives the condensed energy directly into his body. When he lands, Nuo feels something burning beneath his chest and realizes the attack was actually part of the transfer. The senior disciple warns him that this borrowed power is limited and should only be released against the intended target. A glowing sword seal forms across Nuo's chest, storing a fragment of the disciple's sword intent inside him. With the process complete, the disciple dismisses Nuo and expects him to handle Zhao Mu without returning for more assistance. His cold expression makes the warning clear because wasting this gift would embarrass Nuo far more than losing normally. The senior disciple disappears in a streak of purple sword energy and returns to his secluded cultivation. Now empowered by the golden seal, Nuo leaves the sword mound convinced that Zhao Mu's next fight will end very differently. Inside Climbing Heaven Road, Zhao Mu and Lu Qi arrive together on the first floor of the trial. Lu Qi explains that the road will eventually separate them, so each person must overcome the coming stages alone. The thought makes her unexpectedly nervous while Zhao Mu tries to reassure her that they will meet again after clearing the trial. Before leaving, Lu Qi suddenly kisses Zhao Mu and gives him a reward he was completely unprepared to receive. She immediately walks away before embarrassment can catch up with her, leaving Zhao Mu frozen behind her. Once he processes what happened, Zhao Mu smiles and decides this trial has already started better than expected. The clouds ahead suddenly gather into enormous shapes, warning him that his peaceful entrance is officially over. A gigantic demonic rooster emerges first and locks onto Zhao Mu with glowing red eyes. A muscular wolf beast crawls from the mist beside it, looking far more excited about the fight than Zhao Mu is. The last creature is a massive horned toad, completing a party composition that feels assembled through pure chaos. All three beasts attack together from different directions, trying to overwhelm Zhao Mu before he can choose a target. Zhao Mu moves first and slams the charging creatures into the ground before their coordinated attack can properly begin. The beasts recover quickly and spread out again, proving the first exchange only made them angrier. A hidden hedgehog demon curls itself into a spiked ball and launches across the floor like a living projectile. Zhao Mu uses his movement technique to scatter after images around the attack and makes the creature miss every version of him. Golden energy gathers around Zhao Mu as he stops evading and prepares to finish the entire group directly. His fist catches the airborne hedgehog and sends it flying straight back into the other beasts. The collision sweeps all four creatures away and turns their coordinated ambush into one extremely unfortunate group project. Zhao Mu dismisses the first four guardians as far too easy once none of them can stand back up. Clearing the trial produces several rewards, including a weapon, cultivation resources, and a martial technique manual. The most useful prize is the yellow rank high-grade technique known as Burning Flame Palm. Zhao Mu chooses the manual because a reliable offensive technique will help more than another ordinary weapon. He studies the circulation method and memorizes how the technique channels spiritual energy through the arm and palm. After grasping the movement, Zhao Mu gathers scorching energy into his hand and successfully activates Burning Flame Palm. His first strike blasts apart the nearby rocks, confirming the technique already carries enough power to matter in the next stage. Satisfied with his new skill, Zhao Mu advances toward the second floor and waits for the trial's difficulty to finally increase. Elsewhere, Lu Qi cuts through another guardian on the third floor and keeps moving before the trial can slow her down. A second strike tears through the next monster, confirming that her recent growth has greatly increased her combat power. With the final guardian defeated, Lu Qi clears the third floor and advances toward the fourth stage. Outside the trial, the ranking board records her progress and moves Lu Qi into the outer sect's top 50. Zhao Mu's name also appears at 987th after only one floor, which immediately attracts the crowd's attention. The disciples realize his clearance time must have been extremely short, earning him a much higher score than an ordinary first floor clear. Chu Jiaran watches the rankings without speaking, although Zhao Mu's rapid progress clearly does nothing to improve her mood. The discussion is interrupted when a blue-haired prodigy hears Zhao Mu's name and turns toward the board. The newcomer is Nalan Shuang, the half-Qilin disciple who currently holds first place among the outer sect. Everyone immediately makes room because Nalan's talent is famous and his personality is even harder to tolerate. Nalan walks directly to Chu Jiaran and laughs that her former companion has already run away with another woman. When nearby disciples object to his attitude, Qilin's scales spread across Nalan's arm and warn them not to interfere. One casual sweep sends the loudest spectators crashing aside, making his point without delaying the conversation. Nalan steps through the opening he created and keeps mocking Shu as though the entire square belongs to him. Zhu Jiaran's patience disappears when Nalan turns Zhao Mu's rejection into a public joke at her expense. Nalan claims he only came to enjoy the spectacle, which naturally makes the fox demon even angrier. Purple demonic fire erupts around Shu as she prepares to punish him for pushing the joke too far. She launches herself forward, while Nalan remains relaxed enough to taunt her for looking so anxious. Before their clash can begin, Nuao drops between them with the pressure of a peak golden core cultivator. Nuao demands Zhao Mu's location because Nuao Ta is his cousin, and that defeat has become a family matter. He brushes Chu's attack aside and makes it clear that neither her pride nor Nalan's amusement matters to him. The golden sword seal in Nuao's chest confirms he has brought borrowed power from the Nine Dragons sword mound. Nalan finds the situation much more entertaining once he realizes Zhao Mu has attracted an inner sect powerhouse. Rather than interfere, he decides to watch and see whether the newcomer can survive the trouble surrounding him. Chu, Nalan, and Nuao turn their attention toward the ranking board as Zhao Mu continues climbing inside. Another change on the list announces that Zhao Mu has cleared the second floor in an unusually short time. Inside the isolated trial space, the portal opens toward the next stage while everyone outside can only watch his score. Moments earlier, Zhao Mu used Burning Flame Palm to crush the second floor guardians before they could surround him. The fast clear produces 3 better rewards: a cultivation pill, a sword technique, and a second-grade flying sword. The pill is useless to someone who already eats better ones, so Jiaomu chooses the flying sword as a future gift. The jade-like sword is called Baiyu Xie, and its appearance impresses him more than its actual grade. After storing Baiyu Xie, Jiaomu follows the staircase toward the third floor without wasting any more time. The next portal opens quietly, but the atmosphere beyond it feels completely different from the earlier stages. 10 peak Foundation establishment monsters are waiting together, including several enormous creatures designed for close-range combat. Jiaomu gathers the power of his Red Yang sacred body and decides to test how far his raw strength can carry him. Golden energy surges across the platform as he awakens every guardian at once instead of isolating them. The entire pack charges together, turning the third floor into the first stage that can actually punish one mistake. Jiaomu meets the fastest beast with Burning Flame Palm and drives the condensed heat straight through its defense. The strike slams the creature into the ground and clears enough space for Jiaomu to reposition. A second monster attacks from behind before he can reset, forcing him to trust his senses rather than his vision. Jiaomu steps onto the creature's extended tongue and uses its own attack as a platform to escape the bite. He follows with another burning strike that detonates beneath its jaw and throws the heavier beast backward. The monster finally understands that Jiaomu's body is stronger than the creature's this floor was designed to test. Jiaomu realizes the Red Yang sacred body has made direct exchanges far safer than they should be at his cultivation level. 2 more guardians rush from opposite sides, trying to counter his superior strength with synchronized pressure. He slips between them at the last moment and redirects both attacks harmlessly past his body. The exchange leaves Jiaomu impressed rather than worried because the third floor is finally forcing him to fight properly. Surrounded by the remaining beasts, Jiaomu concludes that his overwhelming physique may actually be enough to clear the entire floor. Jiaomu's Burning Flame Palm engulfs the remaining third-floor guardians and finally ends their coordinated assault. Despite the damage to his clothes and body, Jiaomu remains standing and celebrates successfully clearing the stage. Green restorative energy immediately spreads through him as the Red Yang sacred body begins repairing his injuries. The wounds close rapidly, leaving Jiaomu impressed by how much punishment his new constitution can recover from. Once his condition stabilizes, he approaches the staircase leading toward the 4th floor. Before advancing, Jiaomu reviews his new rewards and chooses a technique called Purple Lightning Entanglement. The manual releases dense lightning energy as he begins studying its spiritual circulation method. Jiaomu decides mastering the technique now is smarter than entering the 4th floor with an unfinished build. Outside the trial, the disciples stare at the ranking board and wonder whether Jiaomu's score has been recorded incorrectly. His 3rd floor clear launches him directly into 13th place among the outer sect's strongest disciples. Zhujiaran bites back her frustration as Jiaomu continues making her previous judgment look worse by the minute. Nuo also watches the board, although Jiaomu's sudden rise does nothing to weaken his confidence. He assures the surrounding disciples that rankings will not protect Jiaomu once their confrontation begins. The portal activates again as Luchi completes her own trial and returns to the gathering area. She emerges slightly exhausted but satisfied after pushing herself through several difficult stages. Nearby disciples congratulate her improvement, while Zhujiaran dismisses the achievement as only moving up a few positions. Luchi calmly accepts the praise because Chu's opinion stopped mattering to her a long time ago. Zhu then introduces Nu Io as the inner disciple waiting to punish Jiaomu for defeating his cousin Nu Tai. Luchi's relaxed expression disappears when she senses how much stronger Nu Io is than the previous bull demon. Back inside, Jiaomu continues circulating Purple Lightning Entanglement until violet arcs cover his entire body. Lightning gathers within his eyes as he finally understands how the technique identifies every target inside its range. Jiaomu releases the stored energy and sends branching bolts across the surrounding arena. The lightning tears through the floor and nearby rocks, proving that the technique can attack several enemies simultaneously. He studies the remaining current around his hand and measures how quickly the technique can be activated again. Purple Lightning Entanglement covers a wide area, but its real value is binding opponents long enough for Jiaomu to close the distance. Satisfied with the result, Jiaomu ends his training and prepares to test the new technique against something alive. He climbs toward the 4th floor portal while wondering what kind of guardian could follow the previous monster pack. A massive wolf-like demon answers with a low growl as ghostly flames drift around its body. The creature rises over the arena with pressure far beyond the earlier guardians, because subtlety clearly ended on the 3rd floor. Jiaomu realizes the 4th floor guardian possesses power comparable to the core formation realm. Rather than wait for its opening attack, he ignites both hands and charges forward with Burning Flame Palm. The guardian's speed exceeds his expectations, allowing its claw to break through and leave a painful wound across his torso. Jiaomu ignores the injury and drives a Burning Flame Palm directly into the creature during the same exchange. The concentrated fire erupts across the arena and buries the Guardian beneath a massive explosion. Moments later, the beast bursts from the smoke with only minor damage and immediately resumes its charge. Jiamu changes strategies and spreads purple lightning entanglement across the floor beneath its path. The Guardian becomes trapped inside the electrical field, giving Jiamu the opening he was waiting for. With flames concentrated into one palm, he rushes forward before the creature can break free. Jiamu combines the binding lightning with burning flame palm and strikes the immobilized Guardian at close range. The beast cannot evade from this distance, which reveals why Jiamu considers the binding effect the technique's strongest feature. His attack sends the Guardian sliding across the arena while lightning continues restricting its movement. Before Jiamu can celebrate, the lingering energy inside his earlier wound suddenly spreads and weakens his entire body. He drops to his knees as the corrupted energy interferes with his breathing and spiritual circulation. The Guardian recovers behind him and prepares another charge while Jiamu struggles to remain conscious. Climbing Heaven Road begins opening an emergency exit after judging that Jiamu can no longer continue safely. Before the trial removes him, the Red Yang's sacred body erupts with golden energy and rapidly restores his damaged flesh. Jiamu rises completely recovered as blazing Yang energy surrounds him, ready to restart the fight on much better terms. Jiamu's burning flame palm engulfs the remaining third-floor Guardians and finally ends their coordinated assault. Despite the damage to his clothes and body, Jiamu remains standing and celebrates successfully clearing the stage. Green restorative energy immediately spreads through him as the Red Yang sacred body begins repairing his injuries. The wounds close rapidly, leaving Jiamu impressed by how much punishment his new constitution can recover from. Once his condition stabilizes, he approaches the staircase leading toward the 4th floor. Before advancing, Jiamu reviews his new rewards and chooses a technique called Purple Lightning Entanglement. The manual releases dense lightning energy as he begins studying its spiritual circulation method. Jiamu decides mastering the technique now is smarter than entering the 4th floor with an unfinished build. Outside the trial, the disciples stare at the ranking board and wonder whether Jiamu's score has been recorded incorrectly. His 3rd floor clear launches him directly into 13th place among the outer sect's strongest disciples. Chujiaran bites back her frustration as Jiamu continues making her previous judgment look worse by the minute. Niu Ao also watches the board, although Jiamu's sudden rise does nothing to weaken his confidence. He assures the surrounding disciples that rankings will not protect Jiamu once their confrontation begins. The portal activates again as Luchi completes her own trial and returns to the gathering area. She emerges slightly exhausted but satisfied after pushing herself through several difficult stages. Nearby disciples congratulate her improvement, while Chujioran dismisses the achievement as only moving up a few positions. Luchi calmly accepts the praise, because Shu's opinion stopped mattering to her a long time ago. Chu then introduces Nuao as the inner disciple waiting to punish Jiamu for defeating his cousin Nu Tie. Luchi's relaxed expression disappears once she senses how much stronger Nuao is than the previous bull demon. Back inside, Jiamu continues circulating purple lightning entanglement until violet arcs cover his entire body. Lightning gathers within his eyes as he finally understands how the technique identifies every target inside its range. Jiamu releases the stored energy and sends branching bolts across the surrounding arena. The lightning tears through the floor and nearby rocks, proving that the technique can attack several enemies simultaneously. He studies the remaining current around his hand and measures how quickly the technique can be activated again. Purple lightning entanglement covers a wide area, but its real value is binding opponents long enough for Jiamu to close the distance. Satisfied with the result, Jiamu ends his training and prepares to test the new technique against something alive. He climbs toward the 4th floor portal while wondering what kind of guardian could follow the previous monster pack. A massive wolf-like demon answers with a low growl as ghostly flames drift around its body. The creature rises over the arena, with pressure far beyond the earlier guardians, because subtlety clearly ended on the 3rd floor. Jiamu realizes the 4th floor guardian possesses power comparable to the core formation realm. Rather than wait for its opening attack, he ignites both hands and charges forward with burning flame palm. The guardian's speed exceeds his expectations, allowing its claw to break through and leave a painful wound across his torso. Jiamu ignores the injury and drives a burning flame palm directly into the creature during the same exchange. The concentrated fire erupts across the arena and buries the guardian beneath a massive explosion. Moments later, the beast bursts from the smoke with only minor damage and immediately resumes its charge. Jiamu changes strategies and spreads purple lightning entanglement across the floor beneath its path. The guardian becomes trapped inside the electrical field, giving Jiamu the opening he was waiting for. With flames concentrated into one palm, he rushes forward before the creature can break free. Jiamu combines the binding lightning with burning flame palm and strikes the immobilized guardian at close range. The beast cannot evade from this distance, which reveals why Zhao Mu considers the binding effect the technique's strongest feature. His attack sends the guardian sliding across the arena while lightning continues restricting its movement. Before Zhao Mu can celebrate, the lingering energy inside his earlier wound suddenly spreads and weakens his entire body. He drops to his knees as the corrupted energy interferes with his breathing and spiritual circulation. The guardian recovers behind him and prepares another charge, while Zhao Mu struggles to remain conscious. Climbing Heaven Road begins opening an emergency exit after judging that Zhao Mu can no longer continue safely. Before the trial removes him, the Red Yang's sacred body erupts with golden energy and rapidly restores his damaged flesh. Zhao Mu rises completely recovered as blazing Yang energy surrounds him, ready to restart the fight on much better terms. The sword seal, Niu Ao borrowed, releases a golden bull-shaped attack that forces Zhao Mu backward before he can stabilize himself. Zhao Mu catches the incoming force with both hands, but the stored sword intent is far stronger than Niu Ao's own cultivation. Golden energy tears through Zhao Mu's guard and floods directly into his body. He grits his teeth as the Red Yang sacred body struggles to withstand an attack created by a much stronger cultivator. The unstable energy finally detonates and swallows the entire courtyard beneath a violent explosion. Lu Qi tries to rush toward Zhao Mu, while Chu Jiaoren coldly warns that entering the blast now would accomplish nothing. Chu watches the smoke with grim satisfaction because she believes Zhao Mu has finally paid for rejecting her. Niuao boasts that this is the consequence of offending the powerful sword-mound disciple who placed the seal inside him. Lu Qi refuses to accept Zhao Mu's death and turns toward Nuao with fury. Before either of them can move, Nuao senses someone still standing inside the smoke. A familiar smile appears through the dust and immediately ruins Nuao's celebration. Zhao Mu emerges badly wounded with his clothes torn apart, but his sacred body has kept him alive. Lu Qi's relief is immediate, while Nuao can barely understand how Zhao Mu survived the borrowed sword intent. Refusing to give him time to recover, Nuao gathers another blazing attack and charges forward. Lu Qi intercepts him with her sword, because Zhao Mu is in no condition to block another direct strike. Nuao knocks her aside with one swing and continues toward his original target. His burning fist descends on Zhao Mu before the injured cultivator can properly defend himself. A pillar of purple energy crashes down first and slams Nuao into the stone floor. Nuao struggles beneath the pressure but quickly realizes the newcomer's cultivation completely surpasses his own. And Zixuan descends within purple flames and takes control of the courtyard without needing a second attack. The Saintess looks down at Nuao and condemns him for using borrowed power to murder an outer disciple publicly. Nuao drops to his knees because angering An Zixuan is far more dangerous than losing to Zhao Mu. Disciples pour into the damaged courtyard once they realize both the Saintess and several famous cultivators have appeared. And Zixuan heals Zhao Mu's damaged arm and admits that his performance has forced her to see him in a new light. Reaching this stage at his current cultivation is unprecedented within the Saint Juan demon sect, although Zhao Mu calls it a lucky clear. And Zixuan tells him to stop pretending the result means nothing and offers him the opportunity to receive proper guidance. A crimson summons streaks into the sky and alerts the sect's elders that an exceptional disciple is waiting below. 3 elders immediately race toward the courtyard on their flying treasures while arguing over who noticed Zhao Mu first. The surrounding disciples recognize the approaching figures and realize Zhao Mu has attracted nearly half the sect's senior leadership. 5th Elder Zhou Siliang arrives with powerful demonic energy and declares that Zhao Mu would thrive under his instruction. 7th Elder Fan Feng offers his own inheritance and argues that Zhao Mu's human talent should be entrusted to him. 3rd Elder Du Guzhan promises to teach Zhao Mu his lifelong battle heaven and earth art. The crowd can hardly believe that 3 elders are openly competing for a newly promoted outer disciple. Their offers quickly escalate from rare techniques to treasured cultivation tools and even a precious alchemy furnace. Instead of choosing between them, Zhao Mu politely asks whether all 3 elders can teach him. The elders immediately realize their recruitment battle has somehow become a shared custody arrangement. And Zixuan approves Zhao Mu's suggestion because combining their specialties would give him the most complete training. None of the elders enjoy sharing a disciple, but withdrawing now would mean admitting the other 2 made better offers. Golden energy continues circulating through Zhao Mu as his Red Yang sacred body repairs the remaining damage. The elders study his rapid recovery and finally understand why An Zixuan considered him worthy of their attention. She instructs the 3 of them to divide Zhao Mu's training and ensure his unusual potential is not wasted. With the decision settled, An Zixuan takes Nuao away for punishment while he thanks her for sparing his life. Zhao Mu respectfully accepts the elders' guidance and prepares himself for whatever their combined training will involve. And Zixuan leaves with a faintly embarrassed expression after noticing how calmly Zhao Mu handled the entire situation. Zhou Xiliang claims the first training session and wraps Zhao Mu onto his flying treasure before the other elders can object. As he is carried away, Zhao Mu warns Lu Qi that Long Tianxiang may secretly plot against her. The disciples watch their newest prodigy disappear into the sky while tied up like extremely valuable luggage. Hidden among the crowd, Long Tianxiang hears the warning and realizes Zhao Mu has already become suspicious of him. The surrounding disciples are still trying to understand how Zhao Mu plans to study formations, alchemy, combat, and cultivation at once. To them, dividing one day among 4 masters sounds about as practical as fighting an entire campaign alone. Elder Zhou claims the first day before anyone can object and immediately carries Zhao Mu toward Profound Array Peak. Their flight ends at Profound Array Peak, a secluded mountain covered by layers of formations rather than ordinary defenses. A transportation array places them safely inside, proving that the mountain itself decides who is allowed to enter. Zhao Mu studies the strange landscape while Elder Zhou explains that almost everything around them was shaped through array techniques. He asks whether such formations can truly replace direct combat since the mountain looks far too peaceful to be dangerous. Elder Zhou's uneasy smile suggests that peace only lasts because nobody sensible challenges the formations protecting this place. A skilled formation master can turn spiritual power and symbols into attacks, restraints, barriers, or entire artificial battlefields. That versatility is exactly why Zhao Mu chose this trial, but Elder Zhou warns that the foundation is painfully difficult to learn. Without understanding divine runes, a careless cultivator can become trapped by his own array before the enemy even arrives. The warning only makes Zhao Mu more serious, because useful power has never scared him away from a difficult subject. He accepts the risk without hesitation, and Elder Zhou agrees to let his disciple handle the introductory lesson. They soon reach a secluded residence built into the mountain, where Zhao Mu's temporary instructor is already waiting. The doors open and a horned woman steps out to greet the elder and inspect the newcomer he brought. Her name is Zhong Yorong, Elder Zhou's disciple and the senior sister responsible for teaching Zhao Mu the basics. Zhao Mu pauses for a moment, surprised that the person waiting for him looks nothing like the severe instructor he expected. Zhong Yorong notices his stare immediately, leaving Zhao Mu to correct himself before their first lesson becomes painfully awkward. Elder Zhou introduces Zhao Mu as her new junior brother and places the entire first day of training in her hands. Zhao Mu gives a proper greeting while Zhong Yorong accepts him with the calm distance of someone judging an unfamiliar student. The elder then activates a movement array and disappears before either disciple can hand the responsibility back to him. Left alone together, Zhong Yorong leads Zhao Mu inside and decides to test what he can perceive without any guidance. She begins by guiding spiritual fire around a small formation token and stabilizing the symbols hidden within it. Once the token is active, its glowing structure floats before Zhao Mu and invites his consciousness into the array. Zhao Mu focuses on the object rather than its surface, searching for the force controlling the flame. His awareness enters a luminous formation where elemental marks rotate around him like parts of one enormous mechanism. When he returns to himself, Zhong Yorong asks what he noticed instead of giving him the answer. Zhao Mu describes a circular mark surrounded by flame, which proves he saw beyond the token's ordinary appearance. He also remembers peculiar symbols woven through the light, though none of them resemble writing he already knows. Zhong Yorong explains that those symbols are the real foundation of formations, while the visible effects are only their result. Zhao Mu compares the shapes in his memory and realizes each one must carry a separate rule or function. His next conclusion catches Zhong Yorong off guard, since most beginners need far longer to recognize what they witnessed. Zhao Mu identifies the symbols as divine runes, earning confirmation that his understanding is already moving unusually fast. Zhong Yorong explains that divine runes are fragments of natural law that formation masters arrange into usable effects. They exist throughout heaven and earth in countless variations, and nobody knows how many different runes truly exist. Zhao Mu understands the idea, but still wants to know how a few symbols become a complete formation. Zhong Yorong reactivates the token and begins combining its runes while carefully controlling the spiritual power flowing through them. The separate markings connect, and the small object releases enough light to overwrite everything around them. Zhao Mu finds himself standing inside a false world, and correctly recognizes the technique as a type of illusion array. Zhong Yorong expands the demonstration into fire, water, ice, and lightning to show how one array can manipulate multiple phenomena. She controls the changing environment with casual precision, while Zhao Mu realizes formation combat is far more flexible than ordinary techniques. The demonstration drains her spiritual power almost immediately, forcing Zhao Mu to catch her as the illusion collapses. Zhong Yorong steadies herself and explains that understanding divine runes does not remove the enormous energy required to activate them. Noticing how quickly she weakened, Zhao Mu asks why a 5th-grade Chaoyuan pill has not carried her into core formation. Zhong Yorong admits one Chaoyuan pill would not be enough for her breakthrough, and obtaining several is far beyond her means. That problem sounds impossible for an ordinary disciple, but Zhao Mu remembers that he already possesses exactly what she needs. Before she can dismiss the subject, he calls senior sister Xiong back and tells her he may have a solution. Zhao Mu's confident smile makes it clear that her cultivation bottleneck has just become his next opportunity. Picking up from his promise, Zhao Mu tells Xiong Yuryong that if one Chaoyan pill is insufficient, he can provide several. He catches her wrist before she walks away, making it clear this is a real offer rather than empty encouragement. Even if 3 pills fail, Zhao Mu says he will keep finding more until her core formation bottleneck finally breaks. That level of generosity leaves Xiong Yuryong flustered, because they met today and he is already solving her biggest problem. Zhao Mu asks her to trust him once, wearing the confident smile of someone who knows his investment will pay off. Her excitement quickly turns cautious, since valuable pills never appear without a price, and Zhao Mu seems suspiciously eager. Instead of demanding anything, he places 3 5th-grade Chaoyan pills in her hand and calls them a gift between fellow disciples. Zhang Yuryong carefully examines the medicine and confirms that all 3 pills are genuine high-quality cultivation resources. She cannot promise a breakthrough, but she sincerely thanks Zhao Mu for giving her a chance she could never afford alone. The gifts trigger 3 returns, rewarding Zhao Mu with 2 heart-nurturing pills and an 8th-grade origin gathering pill. That final reward is the real jackpot, and Zhao Mu quietly stores the 8th-grade pill before Xiong Yuryong notices it. Before he can celebrate, Profound Array Peak shakes violently enough to make both of them brace for an attack. Xiong Yuryong recognizes the disturbance as damage to the mountain-protecting Grand Array, rather than an ordinary earthquake. One quick hand signal sends a summons through the formation network surrounding her residence. 3 patrol disciples arrive together and report that the outer barrier has been struck by hostile forces. Xiong Yuryong demands the exact cause, because even minor damage can spread through a connected Grand Array. The patrol leader admits they only detected demonic energy and have not identified whoever launched the attack. She orders them to investigate the damaged section, then dismisses the exhausted group once their report is complete. The residence array transports the guards away immediately, saving everyone another long journey across the mountain. Zhang Yuryong tells Zhao Mu not to panic, since demons and evil spirits testing the sect's defenses is unfortunately common. Zhao Mu is less reassured than she intended, because common trouble here apparently means attacking an entire mountain. She explains that Saint-Juan Demon Sect has always stood between human territory and powerful demonic forces. Its founders survived repeated battles against those enemies, which is why every important peak is protected by layered formations. Zhao Mu understands that formation study is not decorative scholarship here, but an important part of the sect's survival. After the disturbance settles, Zhang Yuryong leads him to her small fragrance garden and postpones the lesson until she recovers. She tells him to use the courtyard and hot spring freely, then heads upstairs to restore her spiritual power. Zhao Mu watches her leave and realizes the unexpected break gives him time to examine today's rewards in private. The 8th-grade Origin Gathering pill is worth far more than everything he originally gave Xiong Yuryong combined. With nobody watching, Zhao Mu stretches beside the spring and finally relaxes after a very profitable first lesson. He slips into the water and starts calculating how the new pill can help both his cultivation and his empty budget. The system's resource estimate confirms that Zhao Mu's current plans require far more capital than his ordinary rewards can provide. Even after counting everything he owns, he still needs roughly 100 million spirit stones to meet that requirement. Selling the 8th-grade pill publicly could raise the money, but it would also attract every powerful cultivator in the sect. A private exchange with Xiong Yuryong is safer, especially when the pill directly solves the bottleneck she just confessed. Once the plan is settled, Zhao Mu looks upstairs and decides to show her the real treasure before anyone else learns about it. The moment his foot touches the stairs, a hidden formation seals the passage and activates around him. Dozens of conjured weapons appear from every direction, turning a casual visit upstairs into an aggressive security check. Zhao Mu stops moving and studies the formation, knowing one wrong step could send the entire weapon rack flying. Apparently, Xiong Yuryong protects her private rooms from burglars, enemies, and overly curious junior brothers with equal enthusiasm. Upstairs, Xiong Yuryong senses the defensive array activate while she is bathing and realizes Zhao Mu has approached. She prepares to send him downstairs until his voice explains that he has something important to show her. Zhao Mu raises the medicine bottle and asks permission to come up while carefully avoiding the weapons surrounding him. When he reveals the orange 8th-grade Origin Gathering pill, its concentrated spiritual aura fills the residence. Zhang Yuryong abandons her rest and rushes downstairs wrapped in a towel before Zhao Mu can finish explaining. She lands beside him so quickly that even the surrounding weapon formation looks slow by comparison. Zhao Mu is startled by her sudden arrival, while Zhang Yuryong focuses entirely on the pill in his hand. Recognizing the medicine instantly, she grabs his wrist and demands to know where he obtained such a priceless treasure. Zhang Yurong recognizes the 8th grade origin gathering pill and immediately realizes it could finally solve her core formation bottleneck. She grabs Zhao Mu's arm and demands confirmation that the pill is genuine rather than some cruel joke. Zhao Mu calmly assures her he has no reason to deceive her, though he is clearly enjoying her sudden enthusiasm. Zhang Yurong forces herself to regain control and promises that she will offer something valuable enough to make the exchange fair. Unfortunately, her hastily wrapped towel chooses that exact moment to fall apart and completely derail the serious negotiation. She scrambles to cover herself while Zhao Mu turns away and pretends he saw absolutely nothing. Once she fixes the problem, Zhang Yurong warns him not to misunderstand what just happened. Zhao Mu laughs under his breath, which does nothing to help her already burning embarrassment. He patiently waits for his senior sister to recover before returning to the actual reason he came upstairs. The glowing pill appears between his fingers again, and Zhang Yurong's attention instantly returns to the treasure. She examines its spiritual aura closely and confirms that Zhao Mu truly possesses an 8th grade origin gathering pill. Knowing she cannot accept something this valuable for free, Zhang Yurong asks what he wants in return. Zhao Mu admits he is willing to trade, but only for resources that are genuinely useful to his current cultivation. He gives her time to make an offer, confident that a formation master's private collection should contain something interesting. Zhang Yurong begins with an azure orchid fairy and summons the carefully preserved plant from her storage. The flower is an 8th grade spirit herb, making it rare enough that most cultivators would never see one in person. She explains that its medicinal value rivals the pill, especially for anyone skilled enough to refine high-level medicine. Zhao Mu inspects the plant carefully, but owning an expensive ingredient means little when he cannot use it properly. Zhang Yurong sits beside him and waits for his answer. Already sensing that her first offer has missed the target, Zhao Mu considers keeping it for a future return, though he still needs immediate resources more than another long-term investment. He politely rejects the azure orchid fairy and sends it back, leaving Zhang Yurong visibly disappointed. She bites her finger in frustration because her most precious spirit herb barely made Zhao Mu hesitate. When Zhao Mu asks what other benefits she can offer, Zhang Yurong realizes this negotiation is going to empty her storage. After another moment of hesitation, she reaches for a hidden storage pouch containing a far more practical treasure. Zhang Yurong places the pouch before him and promises that the artifact inside should match his needs much better. The seal opens and a powerful golden light pours out as the stored defensive artifact begins taking shape. A golden formation armor emerges from the pouch, covered in protective patterns capable of activating during combat. Zhang Yurong allows Zhao Mu to inspect it and explains that the artifact can automatically adjust itself to its owner. She rarely leaves Array Valley, so equipment designed for dangerous expeditions has spent years collecting dust in her storage. Zhao Mu decides to test the armor immediately and removes his outer robe before she can give a longer explanation. The artifact wraps itself around his body and turns its formation lines into a flexible layer of golden protection. Zhang Yurong is surprised by how quickly the armor recognizes him, as though it had been designed for Zhao Mu from the beginning. She looks away awkwardly while Zhao Mu continues adjusting the artifact without noticing her reaction. Its defensive ability is excellent, but Zhao Mu still remembers that he needs a massive supply of spirit stones. Seeing that he remains undecided, Zhang Yurong adds a storage pouch filled with spirit stones to complete her offer. That finally satisfies Zhao Mu, who accepts the trade and hands over the origin gathering pill without further bargaining. Because the pill is still counted as something he gave her, the system rewards Zhao Mu with 10 billion spirit stones. The exchange ends with both disciples receiving exactly what they needed, although Zhao Mu's hidden profit is on another level. Zhang Yurong looks at him differently now, realizing his generous behavior comes from confidence rather than carelessness. They return inside so she can prepare for her breakthrough while Zhao Mu quietly checks his new reward. He opens the system interface and begins organizing the enormous fortune that has suddenly entered his possession. 10 billion spirit stones now surround Zhao Mu's consciousness, completely erasing the financial problem he had only moments earlier. Zhang Yurong waits nearby with refreshments, while Zhao Mu finishes processing the system's absurdly successful return. With his resources secured, Zhao Mu circulates his crimson sun power and begins adapting his body to the new formation armor. Golden spiritual energy erupts around him, strengthening his muscles and tearing through clothing that was never built for this upgrade. When the energy settles, Zhao Mu finds that both his physique and control have improved from the brief cultivation session. A new formation fluctuation suddenly appears nearby, causing him to stop and look toward the entrance. Elder Zhou returns through the transportation array and finds Zhao Mu looking considerably different from the disciple he left behind. Zhao Mu quickly offers a respectful greeting before the elder starts asking what happened during his supposedly basic first lesson. Zhao Mu respectfully greets Elder Zhou, though his missing robe makes the situation look far stranger than it actually was. Elder Zhou ignores the greeting and asks why his disciple is standing inside Shongyur Wang's residence nearly half-dressed. Zhao Mu tries explaining that his clothes were destroyed during cultivation, but the elder clearly suspects a more entertaining answer. The old formation master warns him not to casually provoke Xiong unless he is prepared for the consequences. Xiong came from the 10,000 Demon Forest and carries the powerful bloodline of the King Bear clan. Her father is a transcending tribulation expert, so Zhao Mu insists that cultivation remains his only reason for getting close to her. He also admits that abandoning an entire forest for one tree would be terrible planning, which does not reassure Elder Zhou whatsoever. Their conversation is interrupted when another elder loudly orders old Zhou to stop delaying and surrender his disciple. Elder Zhou immediately recognizes the Medicine King Valley elder and looks annoyed that Zhao Mu's second teacher has arrived early. Before releasing him, Elder Zhou gives Zhao Mu several basic formation manuals to study whenever his schedule allows. The two leave small fragrance garden together, while Elder Zhou reluctantly prepares to hand his new disciple to another master. The Medicine King Valley elder approaches with overwhelming enthusiasm and declares that Zhao Mu is obviously better suited for alchemy. He throws an arm around Zhao Mu before the young man can answer, already treating the transfer like a completed transaction. Elder Zhou can only watch as his colleague drags Zhao Mu away without offering him the slightest chance to object. Having four masters compete over one new disciple is unprecedented in the St. Yuan Demon Sect's 8,000-year history. The Medicine King Valley elder summons a flying cloud and happily carries Zhao Mu toward the next stage of his training. Shongyur Wang watches them disappear into the distance, still processing everything that happened during their brief lesson. With the origin-gathering pill held against her chest, she quietly promises herself that Zhao Mu's generosity will not be wasted. Their glowing cloud soon crosses the mountains and descends toward the isolated grounds of Medicine King Valley. The elder lands directly inside the main courtyard, apparently believing entrances are optional when the entire valley belongs to him. He explains that Zhao Mu must first complete a simple test to determine whether he possesses the talent required for alchemy. A massive alchemy furnace appears before them, large enough to make the word simple feel slightly dishonest. The elder instructs Zhao Mu to fill the furnace with fire while controlling its intensity carefully enough to protect the ingredients. Zhao Mu channels his Crimson Sun power through both palms and releases an unusually pure golden flame. The fire instantly surrounds the furnace, but Zhao Mu keeps every strand under control rather than letting the heat spread wildly. The Medicine King Valley elder reaches into the flames and personally confirms their purity without suffering even a minor burn. He realizes Zhao Mu's fire is perfect for alchemy and that the young man's aptitude is even greater than he expected. Under Zhao Mu's steady control, the ingredients refine successfully and condense into a completed pill inside the furnace. The elder catches the finished medicine and finds no impurities that would normally appear during a beginner's first attempt. Zhao Mu responds modestly, though passing an alchemy test without knowing alchemy has become fairly convincing evidence. His master explains that only someone with the Crimson Sun's sacred body could naturally produce true fire of such exceptional purity. Zhao Mu admits he only knows the burning flame palm, so his actual knowledge of manipulating fire remains extremely basic. That is easily fixed, because Medicine King Valley specializes in alchemy and powerful fire-attributed cultivation techniques. The elder tells Zhao Mu to select whichever technique suits him, then leads him toward the valley's scripture pavilion. Inside the pavilion, Zhao Mu mistakes the endless shelves and medicinal aura for the sect's main pill storehouse. His master summons several fire manuals and explains that the higher-grade pills are guarded elsewhere in the sect's core territory. Each floating book contains a different method for controlling flames, allowing Zhao Mu to compare them without searching every shelf. He wants to take the entire collection, but even Zhao Mu understands that choosing everything would make the lesson completely pointless. After reviewing the strengths, he focuses on the manual that best complements the burning flame palm and his sacred body. Zhao Mu finally selects the fire control technique that offers the strongest foundation for both combat and future pill refinement. The Medicine King Valley elder approves his choice and warns that powerful flames become useless when the cultivator cannot control them precisely. His serious expression reveals that uncontrolled demonic fire has caused disasters before, making discipline just as important as raw strength. Zhao Mu accepts the instruction and promises to study the technique properly rather than relying entirely on his natural advantage. Before the elder can continue, a woman calls out to her master from the pavilion entrance. The newcomer is Tao Subai, a personal disciple of Medicine King Valley and Zhao Mu's newest senior sister. Her master introduces Zhao Mu and assigns Tao Subai to show him around while he handles the remaining preparations. Tao Subai immediately leads Zhao Mu away, explaining the valley's rules as they cross the pavilion grounds. She shows him the residence prepared for personal disciples, complete with clothing, meals, and every ordinary daily necessity. Zhao Mu asks whether he can truly call her whenever he needs anything, making Tao Subai reconsider how broadly she worded that offer. When he playfully asks whether that includes his bed, Tao Subai turns bright red, and their formal introduction collapses into instant awkwardness. Zhao Mu keeps smiling after his bold request, apparently hoping confidence can carry him through the silence. Tao Subai's spiritual pressure erupts before he gets another word out, and Zhao Mu immediately starts reconsidering his phrasing. The harmless senior sister from a moment ago suddenly feels enormous, leaving Zhao Mu to retreat before the joke becomes a medical emergency. Her aura surpasses Nuo's half-step Nasan soul pressure, confirming that Tao Subai is already a true Nasan soul expert. After Zhao Mu apologizes, Tao Subai leaves him inside the alchemy courtyard with its furnaces, herb cabinets, and practice materials. She tells him to use whatever he needs and calmly walks away, accepting his apology without extending the conversation. Now alone, Zhao Mu searches the shelves for something that can turn his natural flame into actual alchemy skill. He chooses the pill catalog, which records formulas, ingredients, temperatures, and the correct order for refining each medicine. The catalog gives him enough theory to begin, though reading instructions and controlling sacred fire are very different problems. Zhao Mu stands before the furnace and decides repeated practice is the fastest way to understand what the book cannot teach. Following the first formula, he selects the required herbs and feeds them into the furnace without wasting Medicine King Valley's stock. He separates his fire into two streams, using one to maintain the furnace while the other refines the ingredients individually. The method demands constant adjustment because every herb needs a different temperature before its medicinal essence can be combined. Zhao Mu nearly loses control when the Crimson Sun flame surges beyond his intention, proving raw power is currently his biggest obstacle. He forces the heat back down and keeps the ingredients circulating instead of letting one mistake ruin the entire batch. The refined essences finally merge into 3 round pills, giving Zhao Mu a successful result on his first serious attempt. That success confirms his aptitude, but Zhao Mu knows one clean batch is not enough to call himself an alchemist. Elsewhere, Elderfan watches the process through a projection and sees Zhao Mu controlling several refining steps simultaneously. The young disciple's concentration impresses him most, since Zhao Mu is learning through practice without an instructor correcting every movement. Dugujan arrives beside Elderfan and says the same talent should make Zhao Mu equally promising inside the blood battle hall. Elderfan agrees Zhao Mu is exceptional, but reminds him that human cultivators usually lose to demons in bloodline and physical strength. Watching Zhao Mu's sacred fire, Dugujan becomes eager to discover whether the new disciple can erase that natural disadvantage. 3 days pass as Zhao Mu remains inside Medicine King Valley and turns the courtyard into a non-stop alchemy workshop. By the end, his spiritual energy is nearly exhausted, and even breathing feels like another technique he must manually control. Surrounded by piles of finished medicine, Zhao Mu decides he has practiced enough to understand the basic process. He inspects one completed pill and confirms that his quality has steadily improved throughout the 3 days. Tao Subai returns just as he finishes and finds the courtyard far less organized than when she left it. She brings Medicine King Valley spirit porridge, which restores spiritual energy and helps exhausted cultivators recover their stamina. Zhao Mu accepts the bowl with both hands and starts eating before Tao Subai can finish explaining how carefully it was prepared. Her attention shifts past him, and the sheer amount of medicine covering the courtyard finally registers. When she asks whether he refined everything himself, Zhao Mu casually confirms it as though the pill mountains appeared during a quiet afternoon. Between spoonfuls, he admits his Crimson Sun's sacred body produces more heat than he can comfortably control during delicate refinement. Tao Subai briefly assumes he is showing off, because most beginners would celebrate having even a fraction of that problem. She then admits she cannot offer useful alchemy advice, because her own cultivation path has never involved pill refinement. Even without that knowledge, Tao Subai understands how abnormal his progress is and quietly reassesses the disciple her master brought home. Zhao Mu thanks her for the porridge and asks her to accept some of his finished Foundation Establishment pills in return. Tao Subai hesitates when he places 34th grade pills on her tray, but eventually accepts the generous gift. The system recognizes the transfer and returns 2 7th grade pills, turning Zhao Mu's first alchemy practice into another enormous profit. Tao Subai looks between the pills and Zhao Mu, unable to understand why he would casually give away medicine this valuable. He simply says the pills will be more useful in her hands, avoiding any explanation that would expose the system behind his generosity. Their conversation ends when Elder Fan returns, and Zhao Mu steps forward to greet his alchemy master properly. Dugujan follows behind him, looking impatient after waiting 3 days to begin Zhao Mu's combat training. Zhao Mu asks why both masters came together, sensing that their visit involves more than an ordinary change of lessons. Dugujan explains that demonic creatures have gathered near the sect and repeatedly tested the mountain's defenses. The report matches Xiong Yorong's earlier warning, confirming that the attack on Profound Array Peak was part of a wider disturbance. Dugujan plans to use the situation as Zhao Mu's first practical lesson, and Zhao Mu agrees to accompany him without hesitation. Before leaving, Zhao Mu bows to Elder Fan, who enters seclusion to refine pills and tells him to seek Tao Subai when he returns. Zhao Mu follows Dugujan away on a trail of spiritual light, while Tao Subai and Elder Fan watch from the valley. Tao Subai admits her master judged Zhao Mu well, and Elder Fan proudly agrees that his newest disciple is anything but ordinary. During their journey, Dugujan explains that Blood Battle Hall has defended the sect since its earliest days. Its disciples train specifically to confront outside forces, where strength matters far more than elegant theories or comfortable cultivation. The Sangjuan demon sect has survived countless attacks because Blood Battle Hall kept answering every invasion with another battle. Dugujan takes obvious pride in that history and expects Zhao Mu to become part of the same tradition. Zhao Mu understands the hall's purpose, but his own experience with the demon sect has been much stranger than expected. Dugujan asks whether Zhao Mu once believed every demonic cultivator would be cruel, treacherous, and impossible to trust. Zhao Mu admits outside disciples kidnapped and sold him, yet the people inside the sect have mostly treated him well. Dugujan explains that every great force contains both decent people and scum, regardless of what righteous outsiders call it. Even the sect's old masters judge people through their actions rather than assuming a cultivation path decided their character. That answer gives Zhao Mu a more honest understanding of the place he has unexpectedly started calling home. Their flying sword finally reaches Blood Battle Hall, a massive training complex built high among the sect's mountain peaks. Inside, dozens of disciples drill their bodies and techniques without wasting a moment on ceremony. The training looks brutal enough to explain why Blood Battle Hall produces the sect's most experienced frontline fighters. Zhao Mu studies their movements carefully, knowing this lesson will demand a completely different mindset from formations or alchemy. His attention soon shifts toward two senior disciples waiting near the edge of the training floor. Dugujan introduces the horned Xiao Wugui and the blonde Xing Zhiyue as Zhao Mu's senior brother and second senior sister. Zhao Mu greets them politely, while Dugujan explains that both will help prepare his first physical cultivation test. He orders Xiaohogui to retrieve the ancient Wuji bell, leaving Zhao Mu alone with the far more playful Xing Zhiyue. Xiaohogui hesitates briefly because the bell is rarely moved, but Dugujan's expression leaves no room for debate. The senior brother accepts the order and follows their master toward the hall's restricted storage area. Once the two men leave, Xing Zhiyue immediately steps closer and begins examining her new junior brother. She has already heard about Zhao Mu's pure yang constitution and clearly finds his embarrassed reaction more interesting than the rumor itself. Xing Zhiyue leans close enough to whisper that she would personally like to test what makes his physique so special. Zhao Mu quickly backs away when she explains that her test sounds far less academic than anything Elder Fan assigned. His panic only amuses Xing Zhiyue, who continues teasing him without showing the slightest concern for personal boundaries. Zhao Mu tries keeping his composure, but his face exposes exactly how unprepared he was for this introduction. Desperate to change the subject, he asks how someone who looks so young could already have been married. Xing Zhiyue claims she has buried 9 husbands because every man she married somehow met an early end. She adds that despite all those marriages, none of them brought her much happiness before their unfortunate departures. Before Zhao Mu can decide whether she is joking, Xing Zhiyue pulls him into an aggressively familiar embrace. Now completely trapped, Zhao Mu realizes asking about her romantic history was probably the worst escape plan available. Xing Zhiyue tells him not to be shy and promises that his senior sister knows exactly how to care for him. Zhao Mu smiles through the danger, while privately refusing to believe a single word coming from her mouth. Their conversation is interrupted when Dugujan and Xiaohogui return carrying an enormous golden bell through the air. Dugujan orders Xing Zhiyue to stop tormenting her junior brother, so they can begin the actual lesson. Zhao Mu points toward the towering artifact and asks why a combat hall needs something resembling an ancient ceremonial bell. Dugujan explains that the Wuji bell has lost most of its battlefield power, but still possesses one miraculous ability. It can measure a cultivator's physical foundation, which will determine whether Zhao Mu may learn the battle heaven and earth art. Zhao Mu approaches the bell without hesitation and channels the Crimson Sun's sacred body through his entire frame. He drives one concentrated punch into its surface, releasing far more force than the surrounding disciples expected. The impact rebounds through Zhao Mu's body while the bell absorbs his power and begins evaluating his potential. Instead of producing an ordinary chime, the enormous Wuji bell rises into the air as golden energy spirals around it. Its resonance spreads across the surrounding mountain peaks, announcing Zhao Mu's result far beyond Blood Battle Hall. Deep outside the sect, a hooded observer senses the disturbance and immediately recognizes what that overwhelming resonance means. The mysterious figure declares that a sovereign talent has finally appeared among humanity and knows her master will welcome the news. With preparations already completed, the observer believes the coming conflict can no longer be prevented by anyone. Far inside the 10,000 demon forest, powerful demons gather as the same strange resonance reaches their territory. One of them asks whether the others also felt the birth of an extraordinary human presence beyond the forest. Their leader confirms that a future human emperor has emerged, meaning the balance of the entire Zhenwu continent may soon change. Inside the 10,000 demon forest, the gathered leaders realize the human emperor's arrival is already disturbing the balance beyond their territory. Several demons ask whether their ancestor left any orders, but nobody is brave enough to disturb him without permission. Their leader silences the discussion before nervous speculation turns the entire gathering into useless noise. He warns that the birth of a human emperor is never insignificant and must be treated as a threat from the beginning. The demons accept his command and disperse to prepare, knowing the quiet days around the forest may soon disappear. Back at Blood Battle Hall, Zhao Mu descends from the Wuji Bell, surrounded by the golden energy released during his test. Duguzhan studies him carefully, still struggling to believe the ancient artifact reacted with such overwhelming force. Xing Ziyue asks Xiaohugui whether the result was truly that impressive, though his expression has already answered her. With Zhao Mu's physical potential confirmed, Duguzhan decides he is qualified to begin learning the battle heaven and earth art. He explains that the technique is not a collection of movements, but a fighting spirit formed through absolute confidence and determination. Duguzhan releases his own battle intent so Zhao Mu can feel the difference between ordinary spiritual pressure and genuine killing momentum. The elder gathers that intent inward, concentrating years of combat experience into one controlled surge. A colossal warrior takes shape behind him, created entirely from the unshakable will he developed through countless battles. Zhao Mu finally understands why the technique cannot be mastered by copying poses from a manual. Duguzhan sends the enormous battle image forward, allowing Zhao Mu to witness how pure fighting intent becomes physical force. The manifestation drives its fists down with enough pressure to overwhelm the surrounding training grounds. One demonstration tears through part of Blood Battle Hall, proving the repair budget was never considered during this lesson. When the dust clears, Duguzhan stands completely unharmed while Zhao Mu processes what he just witnessed. Zhao Mu respectfully admits that the technique is far more powerful than he imagined, and asks how he can build that same spirit. Duguzhan remains silent for a moment because there is no comfortable shortcut to the answer Zhao Mu wants. He places a hand on Zhao Mu's shoulder and explains that battle intent is created through experience rather than peaceful meditation. Every genuine life-and-death struggle strengthens the cultivator's resolve, making the battle heaven and earth art more powerful over time. Since Zhao Mu cannot develop years of combat experience overnight, Duguzhan gives him Saint Yuan Gong as an immediate foundation. The manual contains one of the Saint Yuan demon sect's core cultivation methods, and is rarely entrusted to a new disciple. Duguzhan explains that Saint Yuan Gong compresses spiritual power into denser energy that strengthens both techniques and physical attacks. Zhao Mu accepts the manual and promises to focus on mastering its circulation method before attempting anything more advanced. His seriousness satisfies Duguzhan, who now believes Zhao Mu's talent might actually survive his dangerously ambitious training schedule. Before leaving, Duguzhan orders Xiaohugui and Xing Ziyue to protect their junior brother and stop distracting him from cultivation. Zhao Mu returns to his residence alone and immediately opens the Saint Yuan Gong manual while the instructions remain fresh. The opening passages describe how ordinary spiritual power must be repeatedly circulated, compressed, and refined into Saint Yuan energy. Zhao Mu realizes the method could increase his strength without forcing him to replace the techniques he has already learned. He begins circulating the art and uses his extraordinary comprehension to guide energy through every required pathway. The method fits his Crimson Sun's sacred body surprisingly well, allowing him to progress without the resistance most beginners experience. 3 days pass while Zhao Mu remains inside and repeats the Saint Yuan Gong circulation without interruption. Golden energy fills the room as the refined Saint Yuan power begins strengthening his spiritual foundation. A small flame forms above his palm, yet its concentrated heat already exceeds what he could control before training. Zhao Mu sends the flame across the room to test its stability rather than simply admiring the successful result. The tiny projectile detonates with enough force to turn his peaceful cultivation room into another accidental testing ground. A defensive formation activates inside the smoke and prevents the blast from damaging the rest of the residence. Before Zhao Mu can inspect the destruction, an unfamiliar purple pressure appears behind him. And Zixuan reveals herself and admits that Zhao Mu mastered St. Yuan Gong even faster than she expected. Zhao Mu recognizes his fourth master immediately, though her sudden appearance leaves him noticeably less relaxed. And Zixuan floats toward him through the purple energy, looking far too pleased with the surprise visit. Living vines emerge from her aura and restrain Zhao Mu before he can create any respectful distance. She drops him onto the nearby bed, making it clear her teaching methods have very little interest in ordinary classroom procedure. Zhao Mu cautiously asks what brought the scientist to his residence this time while trying to understand her real intention. And Zixuan settles beside him and blocks his escape before the conversation can become another polite greeting. She looks directly at Zhao Mu and asks whether he understands why she truly accepted him as her disciple. Back inside Zitian cave residence, and Zixuan corners Zhao Mu with a simple question about why she accepted him as her disciple. Zhao Mu first assumes she wants the power of his Crimson Yang's sacred body, though someone this strong could simply take what she needs. Rather than admit that suspicion, he studies her expression and chooses the safest answer available. Zhao Mu claims she recognized his limitless cultivation potential, delivering the compliment with enough confidence to almost sell it. And Zixuan immediately leans closer and makes it clear that flattering his master will not save him from the real answer. She admits his special constitution is useful to her cultivation, but also reminds him that becoming her disciple gives him protection and resources. With the arrangement settled, and Zixuan leaves him to recover while looking far too amused by how nervous he became. A moment later, the twin cat attendants arrive carrying tea and a mountain of roasted meat. And Zixuan has sent them with her personal token, meaning these supplies now belong to Zhao Mu without any room for debate. Zhao Mu greets both attendants as senior sisters, earning a warm response from one twin and an instant attitude from the other. Yuan tries to make peace by reminding her sister that they will be seeing plenty of their new junior brother. She pushes the joke much further than necessary, and Zhao Mu realizes subtlety does not exist anywhere in this cave residence. Her pricklier sister drags Yuan away while complaining that Zhao Mu has no idea how to treat women. Instead of being embarrassed, Zhao Mu finds their completely opposite personalities more entertaining than troublesome. The food turns out to be the meat and essence blood of a divine transformation realm blood dragon, which is an absurd cultivation resource for one meal. The Holy Sun hunted it inside the myriad demon forest and sent 2,000 jinn to Zitian cave residence just to please Zixuan. When the twins resume pestering him, Zhao Mu finally tells them to move, before their harmless teasing becomes a full wrestling match. Neither attendant expects him to push back, so both lose their balance and land in a stunned heap. Zhao Mu gives them one warning that their little prank has officially stopped being funny. He turns the situation around without hurting them, and the twins quickly learn that their junior brother is much harder to bully than expected. Outside the room, Zixuan hears the chaos and quietly decides she can tolerate Zhao Mu's growing confidence for now. She returns to her chair looking composed, though the color in her face proves the commotion reached her perfectly well. The twins are left thoroughly humbled, with neither one eager to continue the game they started. Zhao Mu straightens his robes and moves on as if this entire detour was merely another awkward sect custom. Before leaving, one twin asks why the Holy Sun keeps giving Zixuan such ridiculously valuable gifts. Her suspicion is reasonable because the Holy Sun's generosity looks less like respect and more like a very expensive attempt to win favor. Zhao Mu bluntly labels the man Zixuan's loyal lapdog, which is rude, but honestly difficult to argue with. He claims a portion of the dragon meat and starts eating, because wasting divine transformation resources would be the real crime here. Once the attendants leave, Zhao Mu returns to Zixuan and finds that she has finally retrieved what she wanted to give him. She tosses over a storage token containing the Holy Sun's latest contribution and tells Zhao Mu to take everything inside. The token holds several valuable cultivation resources, confirming that the Holy Sun has accidentally become one of Zhao Mu's most generous suppliers. And Zixuan waves away his gratitude and explains that this is simply part of what she owes her new direct disciple. Behind the teasing, she genuinely wants Zhao Mu equipped well enough to survive the enemies his rapid rise will attract. That warning sobers him, because status inside the inner sect comes with attention from people far stronger than the disciples he has already beaten. Zhao Mu bows and assures her that he understands, promising not to treat his new position like free protection with no responsibility. He also knows the Holy Sun will not stay harmless forever once he realizes where all those gifts are ending up. And Zixuan tells him to keep cultivating, avoid reckless fights, and come back whenever he needs resources or guidance. Zhao Mu accepts the order without arguing, which might be the most surprising development of the entire conversation. Her final warning is simple: she refuses to let him die before she has gained everything his unique constitution can offer. Zhao Mu calmly acknowledges her words and leaves Zitian cave residence with his confidence restored. Now recognized as a direct disciple, he crosses the mountain paths with access to privileges that were completely out of reach days earlier. The growing stack of high-grade gifts also brings his next major 10,000-fold return reward within striking distance. His immediate priority is choosing land inside the inner Sect and building a blessed cave residence of his own. While surveying the available peaks, Jiaomu spots a familiar figure racing straight toward him. New Yulan charges up the path in a panic, giving Jiaomu no time to enjoy even 5 minutes of peace. The moment Jiaomu leaves the cave residence, another member of the New family blocks his path and makes him wonder whether these minotaurs ever rest. One look at the enormous maces tells Jiaomu this woman is probably related to New Owl. She introduces herself as New Yulan, New Io's older sister, and arrives with absolutely no interest in a peaceful conversation. New Yulan accuses Jiaomu of getting her brother imprisoned inside Thousand Demon Hall and declares that she will never forgive him. Jiaomu calmly stops her from attacking because there is one massive problem with the version of events she heard. New Yulan produces an official challenge token that allows her to confront a personal disciple despite their difference in status. The dramatic preparation would be impressive as she understood what her brother had actually done. She nearly cries while explaining how much effort it took to obtain the token and earn this chance at revenge. With both maces raised, New Yulan prepares to defend her brother's honor, even if the entire plan ends terribly. Jiaomu asks her to listen before swinging anything that could flatten half the mountain. He reminds her that Nuao joined an ambush, tried to rob him, and left Jiaomu badly injured before the situation was reversed. After surviving all of that, Jiaomu cannot believe New Yulan has somehow decided that he was the bully. The accusation falls apart immediately, leaving New Yulan frozen beneath the weight of secondhand embarrassment. Realizing her brother conveniently removed every important detail, she bows and gives Jiaomu a sincere apology. Jiaomu remembers that New Yulan is the Bull Demon King's daughter, making her far more valuable as an ally than another enemy. Her painfully honest personality also tells him that gaining her loyalty should not be particularly difficult. Jiaomu puts on his most forgiving expression and claims that he is willing to overlook the misunderstanding. Overwhelmed with relief, New Yulan promises to accept anything he requests as repayment for her brother's actions. Jiaomu immediately summons paper and a brush because verbal promises have an unfortunate habit of developing memory problems. Before New Yulan can reconsider, the writing supplies land directly in her hands. She drops to the ground and begins writing out the agreement with complete seriousness. New Yulan signs the document in blood and proudly declares that she always keeps her word. Jiaomu reveals that her repayment will involve following him, managing the residence, and handling his everyday chores. It takes New Yulan several seconds to understand that he has essentially recruited her as his personal maid. She clearly dislikes the embarrassing arrangement, but the contract leaves her with very little room to complain. Seeing her hesitation, Jiaomu decides that loyalty might require a slightly better recruitment package. He asks what she enjoys most and quickly discovers that New Yulan's greatest weakness is simply good food. Jiaomu opens his storage space and reveals a mountain of Divine Transformation Realm Flood Dragon meat. New Yulan recognizes the meat immediately and can barely process how much of the priceless ingredient Jiaomu possesses. He offers her the entire supply for cooking and promises she can eat from it whenever she serves him. That single offer destroys her remaining resistance and turns the reluctant agreement into enthusiastic cooperation. Jiaomu makes her confirm the arrangement clearly, including how she will address him while they are alone. Still embarrassed, New Yulan finally accepts her new role and promises to carry out every assigned task properly. With the Bull Demon King's daughter now willingly working for him, Jiaomu rewards her cooperation with an approving pat. Giving away 2,000 Jin of Flood Dragon meat triggers a 2,000-fold return and rewards Jiaomu with 20 Jin of genuine true dragon meat. After assigning New Yulan to manage the residence, Jiaomu enters seclusion and leaves the household responsibilities in her hands. Alone inside the cultivation chamber, Jiaomu begins studying the formation knowledge provided by Sheng Yurong. His overwhelming comprehension lets him absorb the fundamentals within an hour, so he immediately attempts the basic wind formation. The technique normally requires 36 separate divine runes to gather and guide the surrounding wind. Jiaomu forms the structure in mid-air, and the glowing yin-yang formation begins drawing power almost instantly. Around the same time, Sheng Yurong arrives at Zhoumu's residence carrying additional formation manuals and encounters New Yulan outside. The two senior sisters introduce themselves while quietly studying the unexpected woman standing before them. Sheng Yurong cannot believe Jiaomu has already added another woman to his residence during her brief absence. After learning Jiaomu is cultivating, New Yulan offers to guide Zheng Yurong inside so she can deliver the formation books. Before either woman reaches the chamber, a violent surge of energy erupts from behind the doors. Both recognize the pressure as powerful divine rune fluctuations. though the intensity is far beyond any ordinary beginner formation. Jiamu completes the wind formation without physically inscribing even one rune, something a new formation master should not be capable of doing. The unstable formation releases a raging gust that blasts Zhang Yurong and Nu Yulan across the residence. The wind tears through their outer robes and leaves both women furious and humiliated, while Zhao Mu remains unaware of the collateral damage. Zhao Mu steadies the glowing wind formation and realizes his first casual attempt somehow produced a fully functional array. The formation remains stable despite its ridiculous output, proving the earlier blast was not caused by a simple structural failure. Only after examining the result does Zhao Mu remember that Xiong Yurong was standing directly outside the cultivation chamber. He finds his senior sister disheveled from the windstorm, though thankfully her injuries are limited to a few scratches. Zhao Mu apologizes and shows her the manual, explaining that he formed all 36 divine runes exactly as the book instructed. Before he can keep talking, Zhang Yurong stops him and asks for a moment to make herself presentable again. She tries to maintain her dignity, while admitting the formation shredded her outer clothing far worse than she initially noticed. Zhao Mu quickly hands over a spare outfit, deciding this is one situation where asking questions would only make everything harder. Gifting the clothing triggers a 1,000-fold return and rewards him with 100 sets of supreme attack speed gear. The grandly named equipment turns out to be a collection of impractical outfits, leaving Zhao Mu suspicious of whoever names these rewards. Once changed, Zhang Yurong puts the embarrassment aside and asks Zhao Mu to show her the formation plate. A careful inspection confirms that every divine rune is correctly positioned and the formation itself contains no obvious flaw. To determine what caused the abnormal power, she takes Zhao Mu outside and orders him to activate it again. Zhao Mu repeats the same process and the surrounding wind immediately gathers around his body. The man Christ heard a strange noise with her eyes all the vortex strong enough to shake the entire courtyard. Zhang Yurong studies the formation closely and realizes Zhao Mu's divine runes contain far more spiritual power than normal. With Nu Yulan observing from a safe distance, she decides to compare his results using a different element. Zhang Yurong forms a standard fire formation and demonstrates the exact rune sequence Zhao Mu needs to copy. Her formation releases a controlled stream of flames that strikes the target without spreading beyond the intended area. Zhao Mu reproduces the pattern perfectly, using the same structure and roughly the same amount of spiritual energy. His version still erupts into a blazing inferno that shatters the stone target instead of merely scorching it. Zhang Yurong stares at the destruction because two identical formations should never produce such wildly different results. Zhao Mu suggests that his Crimson Yang's sacred body may naturally strengthen anything connected to the fire element. She agrees that his constitution could provide an advantage, but the difference is far too extreme for that explanation alone. To test the formation more precisely, Zhang Yurong prepares a stable surface where Zhao Mu can place a single controlled divine rune. She tells him to use the smallest amount of energy possible so they can observe the rune without another explosion. Zhao Mu condenses a tiny flame around his fingertip and carefully begins the close-range test. The moment the rune activates, its spiritual energy spreads far beyond the area Zhang Yurong expected. Zhao Mu immediately tries to suppress the output as the surrounding heat rises out of control. The divine rune overloads and releases another burst that throws Zhang Yurong backward and damages her replacement clothing. Trying not to make the situation more awkward, Zhao Mu calmly asks whether she discovered the source of the problem. Zhang Yurong explains that his divine runes are several times thicker and denser than those created by ordinary formation masters. Her unfortunate wording catches Zhao Mu completely off guard even though she is discussing a serious cultivation principle. She clarifies that this unusual density explains both the overwhelming power and the instability of every formation he creates. Nu Yulan arrives to announce that lunch is ready, rescuing everyone from a conversation that desperately needed to end. Zhang Yurong follows Zhao Mu inside while continuing to study this junior brother who keeps breaking basic formation rules. She admits his talent is almost impossible to believe, though she cannot resist teasing him while giving the compliment. Zhao Mu refuses to react to the bait, leaving Zhang Yurong mildly annoyed that her joke accomplished nothing. Nu Yulan serves a full table of roasted meat prepared from the cultivation resources Zhao Mu gave her. Zhao Mu praises the meal, and Nu Yulan proudly explains that she used the flood dragon meat from earlier. Zhang Yurong immediately abandons her dignified senior sister act and begins attacking the largest portion on the table. Zhao Mu explains that the Holy Sun originally gifted the meat to An Zixuan before some of it eventually reached him. Zhang Yurong jokes that the Holy Sun should take a gender-changing pill if he truly wants to inherit the Sanctus's position. Zhao Mu nearly chokes on his food and demands that she never suggest anything that ridiculous again. After enjoying his reaction, Zhang Yurong becomes serious and reveals that her visit had another purpose. She places a pouch of spirit stones on the table as the first resource connected to their master's latest project. The formation An Zixuan plans to build will require several billion spirit stones, meaning their current supply is nowhere near enough. Jiamu accepts Xiong Yurong's spirit stones with enough enthusiasm to make her immediately regret standing within arm's reach. He explains that cultivation resources were his biggest problem, so her perfectly timed gift has saved him a massive headache. Zhang Yurong pulls away and reminds him that generosity does not give him permission to forget every boundary in the sect. Her warning brings up Lu Qi, whose reckless behavior has already earned punishment severe enough to frighten the other disciples. She also tells Zhao Mu to stop involving New Yuan in trouble because even An Zixuan cannot protect him from every consequence. With that message delivered, Zhang Yurong leaves and tells him to visit again when he has learned how to behave. Zhao Mu returns inside, while Niu Yulan quietly finishes serving the meal and organizing his new residence. He mentions that studying formations has left his shoulders aching, and Niu Yulan immediately recognizes another task for the maid. Her massage works surprisingly well, proving that Zhao Mu's household recruitment strategy is already paying dividends. Zhao Mu praises her technique and admits that having someone manage the residence makes cultivation far more comfortable. Niu Yulan becomes embarrassed by the compliment because she still has not adjusted to being openly appreciated. She insists that she is merely fulfilling their agreement, though her reaction makes that explanation less convincing. Zhao Mu affectionately calls her his good maid, leaving Niu Yulan annoyed and pleased at the same time. He then places Xiong Yurong's entire pouch of spirit stones into Niu Yulan's hands as payment for her service. The enormous gift overwhelms her because no master should casually hand a servant wealth that could transform her cultivation. Unable to contain herself, Niu Yulan hugs Zhao Mu and promises to work even harder for him. Gifting away 8 billion spirit stones triggers a 100-fold return and rewards Zhao Mu with 380 billion. Now holding more resources than expected, Zhao Mu sends Niu Yulan to clean the cave residence while he prepares for seclusion. She accepts immediately, still convinced that serving Zhao Mu may be the luckiest misunderstanding of her life. Zhao Mu assures her that his cultivation speed is far beyond normal, so she should not expect the retreat to last very long. Deep inside the chamber, he orders the system to release the spirit stones and begins his breakthrough. The overwhelming quantity is condensed into brilliant high-grade spirit stones packed with far purer spiritual energy. Even the system struggles to display their full value because the total has exceeded its normal storage calculation. Zhao Mu examines one crystal and realizes that a single high-grade stone contains an outrageous amount of usable energy. He surrounds himself with the entire supply and begins absorbing them simultaneously instead of wasting months on careful portions. The first crystal fractures as its spiritual power pours directly into Zhao Mu's meridians. Countless streams follow, flooding his body with enough energy to force the next realm open. Outside the chamber, Niu Yulan considers delivering food because Zhao Mu has remained secluded longer than she expected. Before she reaches the door, a pillar of spiritual light erupts through the residence. The breakthrough shockwave throws Niu Yulan backward and destroys another perfectly good uniform. A massive figure emerges through the smoke as the pressure inside the chamber finally begins settling. Zhao Mu steps out after successfully rebuilding his body with the power of the high-grade spirit stones. Niu Yulan is stunned that he reached Foundation establishment after a retreat that barely lasted any time at all. Zhao Mu checks the system and discovers that the breakthrough consumed every last spirit stone from the enormous return. Already broke again, he asks whether the sect regularly distributes resources to its direct disciples. Niu Yulan confirms that his identity token allows him to collect supplies, giving Zhao Mu his next destination. He leaves the residence while Niu Yulan remains behind to repair the damage and prepare dinner. Before departing, Zhao Mu takes a wind god pill that increases his flight speed and strengthens his affinity with wind. The pill surrounds him with surging green energy, turning ordinary flight into something much faster. Since Lu Qi's residence lies nearby, Zhao Mu decides to check on her before collecting his sect resources. He reaches the compound and immediately notices far more guards than any normal house arrest should require. Dozens of senior sisters launch into the air from every direction the moment they detect a man approaching Lu Qi's residence. Zhao Mu realizes this entire blockade is part of Lu Qi's punishment, and visiting her was a much worse idea than expected. Their combined hostility forms a terrifying pressure overhead and locks directly onto the unwanted guest. Seeing more than 50 cultivators preparing to attack, Zhao Mu abandons the visit before loyalty becomes a medical emergency. He activates the wind god pill at full strength and escapes beneath a massive wave of pursuing energy. Zhao Mu silently tells Lu Qi to endure a few more days because rescuing her currently requires far more preparation. Still confined inside, Lu Qi vows to reach core formation and save Zhao Mu once she is finally strong enough to break free. After abandoning his visit to Lu Qi, Zhao Mu lands inside the disciples' courtyard to collect the resources owed to him. The Wind God Pill delivers him quickly, though his landing attracts far more attention than he intended. Inner disciples from both races gather around the courtyard while Zhao Mu searches for the resource distribution office. Nearby cultivators complain about damaged artifacts and the increasing cost of completing Sect missions. The monsters inside the myriad demon forest have become unusually aggressive, making contribution points much harder to earn. Zhao Mu realizes the worsening situation explains why the courtyard feels more tense than a normal resource line. Before he can move on, a massive demon cultivator deliberately steps into his path and orders him aside. Zhao Mu recognizes the obvious provocation but chooses to see how far the man intends to take it. Two more demons join their companion and identify Zhao Mu as Anzixuan's new personal disciple. Yellow Snake openly studies him while admitting the famous human prodigy looks better than expected. The trio surrounds Zhao Mu and begins insulting him, hoping his pride will make him attack first. Their plan is transparent because Sect rules place the harshest punishment on whoever starts an unauthorized fight. Rather than give them that advantage, Zhao Mu activates the courtyard's formal sparring arena. A crimson pressure rolls from his body as the barrier seals all four cultivators inside. Yellow Snake mocks him for challenging 3 core formation cultivators, while standing at only Foundation establishment. Zhao Mu calmly presents his disciple token, making the challenge official and removing their protection under the rules. He admits his hands have been itching since the breakthrough and invites all 3 demons to entertain him. The confidence in his voice convinces the trio that Zhao Mu genuinely believes he can defeat them together. All 3 rush forward, eager to punish the human disciple who embarrassed them before an entire courtyard. Yellow Snake attacks first by extending her tongue into a fast and surprisingly dangerous spear. Zhao Mu avoids the initial thrust and insults the technique for being as unpleasant as its owner. When the tongue circles back, he catches it with one hand and prevents Yellow Snake from retreating. Purple lightning coil races through his grip and spreads across all 3 opponents before they can separate. The watching disciples are stunned because a low-grade technique should not restrain 3 core formation cultivators this easily. Yellow Snake forces herself through the paralysis and refuses to accept being humiliated by someone beneath her realm. She breaks free from the lightning and transforms her lower body into a powerful python tail. The enormous tail sweeps toward Zhao Mu with enough force to crush the arena floor beneath it. Most spectators assume no human of Foundation establishment could survive taking that attack directly. Zhao Mu proves them wrong by catching the tail and driving his fingers straight through its armored scales. Yellow Snake tries to pull away, but Zhao Mu's physical strength keeps her completely trapped. One sharp movement tears through her defenses and sends the enormous tail crashing aside. The courtyard finally understands that Zhao Mu's human body is somehow stronger than a core formation demon's natural physique. Driven mad by the pain and humiliation, Yellow Snake orders her companions to kill Zhao Mu regardless of the punishment. Her companions stop treating the match like a lesson and release their full killing intent. They activate a talisman containing a 5th-grade slaughter formation designed to overwhelm everything inside the arena. The formation gathers their combined power into a monstrous wave of destructive energy. Zhao Mu senses the danger and decides this is finally serious enough to deserve more than basic techniques. Pure Yang flames gather between his palms while Sing Origin art doubles their intensity. A roaring fire dragon crashes into the slaughter formation and forces the 3 demons backward. One opponent withstands the first blast, proving the killing formation still has enough power to resist him. Zhao Mu answers by doubling the attack and unleashing 2 larger fire dragons into the arena. The elder supervising the courtyard finally appears and orders Zhao Mu to stop before someone dies. Zhao Mu hears him clearly, but refuses to withdraw an attack launched against opponents who intended to kill him. The pure Yang flames swallow the formation and overpower every defense the 3 demons possess. When the fire fades, the entire arena disappears beneath smoke and shattered stone. The furious elder confronts Zhao Mu and blames him for leaving 3 inner disciples dead inside the courtyard. Revealing his true form as a silver-haired baboon demon, the elder declares that Zhao Mu will personally pay for their deaths. Zhao Mu refuses to apologize for killing 3 opponents who tried to erase him with a 6th-rank talisman. The baboon elder ignores that defense and condenses spiritual power around one enormous hand. Convinced rank settles everything, he launches a palm strike meant to end the argument by force. Zhao Mu answers with purple lightning bind and directs the current into the incoming hand. The lightning lands cleanly and briefly locks the elder's fingers before the pressure keeps advancing. His opponent simply muscles through the paralysis, revealing a realm gap far beyond the 3 disciples Zhao Mu defeated. Zhao Mu slips aside and realizes a low-grade restraint technique will not inconvenience this old monster for long. Another massive grab closes around him, forcing Zhao Mu to abandon testing and prepare a real counterattack. Pure Yang flames gather over his palm as Zhao Mu prepares to break the elder's attack by force. Before either technique connects, a woman's command cuts across the entire courtyard. Han Rong lands between them with enough authority to make both fighters stop immediately. She rebukes the elder for attacking a Foundation establishment junior instead of investigating what actually happened. Zhao Mu recognizes her as Dean Han. While the elder's confidence drops the moment she appears, he complains that Zhao Mu killed 3 inner disciples and demands that Enforcement Hall punish him. Han Rong says nothing at first, using her spiritual sense to examine Zhao Mu in the ruined arena. Her scrutiny makes Zhao Mu uneasy because unlike the baboon elder, she is impossible to read. Stepping directly into his space, Han Rong confirms that this is An Zixuan's newly accepted disciple. Zhao Mu introduces himself politely and chooses diplomacy now that the person in charge seems reasonable. Han Rong notes that his smooth manners match the rumors, though she remains unconvinced by appearances. She introduces herself as the second elder's direct disciple and the inner sect's current enforcement dean. With introductions finished, Han Rong orders Zhao Mu to accompany her for an official investigation. He asks her to hear his defense first and explains that the 3 demons escalated the spar into attempted murder. Zhao Mu points out that the entire courtyard witnessed the attack, giving her no shortage of testimony. Several disciples confirm Yellow Snake produced a 6th-rank explosive talisman capable of destroying everyone nearby. Han Rong stops the crowd because she has a more reliable method than collecting 20 frightened versions of the same story. A golden 8 trigrams formation opens around her and begins tracing the spiritual residue left by the fight. Broken fragments of the courtyard's recent past gather above the formation like pieces of recorded memory. Each fragment reconstructs another part of the battle, from the provocation to the talisman and Zhao Mu's counterattack. The completed projection proves the 3 demons intended to kill him before his flames ended the fight. Watching evidence replay itself, Zhao Mu understands why Han Rong holds authority over the inner sect's disciplinary matters. She also recognizes that his Foundation establishment combat power is rare enough to justify An Zixuan's attention. Zhao Mu accepts the praise modestly, which somehow irritates the baboon elder more than bragging would have. Han Rong rules that the deceased disciples created the danger and carried the greater responsibility. Even so, Zhao Mu must follow her to Enforcement Hall and provide a complete account for the official record. The baboon elder receives the less glamorous assignment of staying behind and repairing every stone Zhao Mu destroyed. Han Rong escorts Zhao Mu away while the courtyard disciples begin repairing the wreckage. Left behind, the elder can only grind his teeth at Han Rong for overturning the punishment he wanted. The witnesses praise her reputation for applying the same rules to humans and demons without favoritism. They add that Han Rong has reached late nascent soul and stands among the inner sect's highest-ranked geniuses. Zhao Mu wonders what kind of monsters occupy the remaining positions when someone this strong is merely among the top few. Her pressure convinces him that provoking Han Rong would be an extremely poor use of his afternoon. The pair soon reaches Enforcement Hall, a fortified cavern built to isolate anyone the sect considers dangerous. Guards bow respectfully as Han Rong passes, confirming that her authority here is very real. Zhao Mu follows her through the entrance and notices far more cultivators waiting inside than one routine statement should require. The doors slam shut behind him, instantly turning an official inquiry into something much less comfortable. Hidden formations ignite across the darkness and seal every route back out of the hall. Black energy crashes into Zhao Mu before he can raise a proper defense, disrupting his spiritual power and balance. The attack spreads through his body, rapidly draining his strength and making it difficult to remain conscious. Unable to stay standing, Zhao Mu drops to one knee as Han Rong watches without offering help. Only then does he understand that Han Rong never rescued him from the elder. She delivered him directly into a prepared trap. Surrounded by countless hostile presences, Zhao Mu realizes Han Rong has sealed him inside the most dangerous section of Enforcement Hall. He accuses her of working with Huang Shi and the others, but Han Rong finds his conclusion almost insulting. Standing over the weakened Zhao Mu, she explains that several different groups have been targeting him for completely different reasons. The Wang family only wanted him in prison so they could seize his treasures, while Han Rong intends to make sure he dies. That answer leaves Zhao Mu with one obvious question about what he ever did to earn this woman's hatred. Han Rong simply tells him that the person who wants him dead has been standing directly in front of him. She refuses to reveal her real motive, enjoying the fact that Zhao Mu still cannot understand how deeply he has been trapped. Han Rong grabs his face and leans close, confident that his damaged body has no strength left to resist her. Zhao Mu quietly gathers pure yang energy in one hand, while allowing her to believe the poison has completely subdued him. At point-blank range, he unleashes blazing flame palm and detonates the floor between them. The explosion creates an opening, and one nearby prisoner immediately rushes toward freedom while Zhao Mu retreats through the smoke. Han Rong remains unharmed and mocks Zhao Mu for believing one surprise attack could threaten her. Dark spiritual energy spills from her fingers and spreads across the hall like living shadows. The darkness catches Zhao Mu from behind before he can reach the sealed entrance. Han Rong's power expands into an enormous demonic presence that completely overwhelms Zhao Mu's resistance. One sweep of the shadow throws him through an opening and sends him plummeting into the dungeon beneath Enforcement Hall. As the darkness closes around him, Zhao Mu realizes Han Rong never planned to kill him with her own hands. A nearby guard asks whether she intends to finish the job, but Han Rong says there is no need. Once Zhao Mu reaches the lowest level, the prisoners waiting below will make his survival impossible. Unable to fly or control his spiritual power, Zhao Mu falls helplessly through the seemingly endless shaft. He finally crashes into the dungeon floor and barely manages to remain conscious after the impact. The lowest level resembles an abandoned prison, though the oppressive energy confirms it is anything but empty. Zhao Mu summons a small pure yang flame and uses it to illuminate the surrounding cells. While recovering, he tries to understand why Han Rong risked betraying Zixuan just to eliminate him. A heavy sound interrupts his thoughts, followed by several enormous figures moving beyond the firelight. 3 ancient demon kings emerge from the darkness, each carrying the pressure of the nascent soul realm. Zhao Mu forces a smile because panicking in front of 3 starving demons would only improve their appetite. He realizes Han Rong sent him here so the prisoners could kill him while leaving her hands technically clean. The demon kings study their unexpected meal and make no effort to hide how hungry centuries of imprisonment have made them. Rather than attack immediately, Zhao Mu asks why cultivators this powerful still obey the woman keeping them imprisoned. One demon suggests the others can challenge Han Rong themselves, though he personally has no desire to leave the dungeon. The lizard demon explains that escaping would only place them directly in Han Rong's path again. All 3 would rather remain imprisoned than face the woman whose cold gaze still frightens them after hundreds of years. Their reaction tells Zhao Mu that Han Rong's strength is even more terrifying than her inner sect ranking suggested. The demons soon return to discussing whether Zhao Mu should be cooked or eaten raw for the greatest cultivation benefit. Instead of backing away, Zhao Mu takes one deliberate step toward the 3 creatures planning their dinner. He respectfully greets them as seniors and asks for one opportunity to speak before anyone starts eating. Amused by his nerve, the demons agree to listen since another few minutes mean little after 300 years of hunger. Zhao Mu smiles because the moment they accept a conversation, this stops being an execution and becomes a negotiation. He points out that eating him changes nothing, because they will still remain trapped inside this dungeon forever. Zhao Mu offers them something more valuable than one meal, a genuine opportunity to escape Han Rong's prison. The 3 demon kings exchange uncertain looks, interested in the offer but unwilling to trust such an obvious gamble. The lizard demon laughs at the idea that a Foundation establishment cultivator could accomplish what they failed to do. Even at their peak, all 3 were powerless against Han Rong, making Zhao Mu's proposed escape plan sound completely impossible. Zhao Mu counters that Han Rong deliberately sent 3 nascent soul demon kings to handle one junior because she knows he is not ordinary. One demon admits Zhao Mu's aura differs from normal humans, especially the mysterious bloodline none of them can see through. With their curiosity secured, Zhao Mu draws a glowing strand of golden blood from his fingertip. The demon kings immediately recognize the ancient pressure inside it and finally understand why Han Rong considered him dangerous. Zhao Mu reveals that the power running through his body is the legendary human emperor bloodline.